This is what people don't understand. I know that tomorrow this could be gone.
Do you think you're a competitive person?
Yes.
Yeah?
100%. I hate losing.
It's just so much work in the trenches, like building it and building it and building it. And there's a reason why you're here today and why you're doing what you're doing today.
At different times, Leigh, what's the answer? What's this? I'm like, look, honestly, consistency, good practice, and time.
Welcome back, guys, to episode number 2 of the Network Podcast by Area Academy. It's very exciting to be here doing another episode. I think the first one exceeded expectations for both of us.
Yeah.
Went very smoothly. The response so far has been pretty cool.
Yeah.
And now it's just about keeping that consistency up, right? Like,
yeah, that's it.
Keeping it going and keeping it moving. So look, today's episode is going to be more about Leigh's story than mine.
We skipped over it last time.
We kind of skipped past it last time.
I don't know if anyone listening noticed that. But.
Yeah, Leigh was very upset about it, so we said, look, we'll give him we'll give him another one, won't we? We'll give him another crack to tell his story.
Go.
I think both of our stories are quite interesting in terms of how we got to where we are right now. Yeah. And they probably both need a podcast of themselves. So the next couple of episodes are going to be today's about Leigh's story, and tomorrow we'll probably record my one.
Yeah.
Or even after this, we'll see how we go.
It's interesting with the story though, isn't it? I always think we always find that an awkward moment at a class. Do you think?
Yeah.
Like it's weird talking about yourself, but I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think I'm consciously going to try and change my attitude on that and try and enjoy talking about myself, because not from an ego point of view, but I think our stories are valuable.
Yeah, no, there's definitely value and lessons within the stories. I always say at the beginning of our classes, like, we introduce ourselves, say thanks to everybody for coming, give the kind of public service announcements and stuff. And then I'm like, all right, let's get the most awkward part of the day out of the way. And it's almost the same now with the podcast. It's like, let's get the most awkward part of the podcast out of the way, which is us telling our stories, which I guess to me is something that, again, like, it's very valuable in terms of the lessons that we've done in our lives accumulating to this point. But speaking about yourself in front of a group of people, it can be difficult, like, especially like I've had a bit of stage experience and stuff, and being at Hair Expo and stuff on stage, and then you don't want to kind of go on about yourself too much. You don't want to sound like you're blowing your own trumpet, but at the same time, it is valuable and it's inspiring for some people, because I've been to classes before with different people, which they won't be named, but like, they just go on about their story for too long, and I'm like, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to be that guy, but yeah, it is valuable. So let's get into it. Let's get into Leigh's story.
Where should we start?
Where should we start?
Where do we start?
So how did you get into hair in the first place?
Hair?
No, before hair. Let's go back to that. All right.
All right. Let's go a bit further.
Let's go a little bit further back.
All right.
So before hair, what was going on in the life of Leigh Windsor?
Well, growing up, I was quite lucky. I did a lot of stuff. I'm one of 4 boys, so we were always doing sport. My dad always encouraged us to do sports, which was great. And it's interesting, as I'm getting older, I always look back on the dynamic of 4 siblings close in age, and that, I think, then adds a little bit of diversity to everybody. So I chose music. Like, my other thing was music. So I play a lot of sport and I play a lot of music. That was me.
They were your outlets.
Yeah, those are my outlets. I love playing in bands. I played guitar since I was tiny. I played drums first, actually. I was a drummer from the age of 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you still play?
I can still play. Yeah. It's like riding a bike. You never forget that skill.
Them hands are worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Them hands are worth a lot of money.
Get them insured. So that, and then looking at the dynamic of that, then one of my younger brothers, Adam, we're only a year apart. Again, we were all encouraged to play sport, but he wasn't so sporty. He played a bit of sport, but then he was into gaming more than me.
Yeah.
you know. And then he found music as well, I think, when I was doing it. But yeah, and then one of my other brothers, you know, he was really into sports like me. So it's really interesting to see the dynamic and sort of how that shapes you. But that was what happened early on. And then what happened next? I think I got to about 15, yeah, playing lots of sport and playing lots of music. And I think that really helped to shape me in the early days. We've spoken about this before, but like the mental build that you can get from that and the attitude building you can get from that.
It's like the mindset you develop around it at that age. I listened to something yesterday. Maybe it was in the Seth Godin thing that you sent me, but it was about, it was in that video, and it was about how, like, you know, we can remember stuff vividly from our teenage years, but we can't really remember before that. Like, you can't remember what you did when you were 7 years old because your conscious mind hasn't developed.
He was talking about the conscious voice in your mind. It starts to develop loudly. I loved how he put that. He said when you're young, it's quiet, and then as you get to like 14, 15, 16, you know, when you're coming of age, if you will, it starts to become louder. And that is a sort of, that encourages where your mind goes and your actions go next.
For sure.
I love that. But that explains a lot, doesn't it? I mean, I can't really remember how I was before the age of 13 or 14.
No, for sure.
I remember what I did, but
but it's like that's where it's so deep in the subconscious. But I think it's just a conditioning thing. So when you were like 15, 16, you were kind of going into sport and taking your music a bit more seriously.
So I played hockey. That was my main sport, roller hockey. So on skates, roller skates. Not roller blades either. Actual like quads are the ones with 4 wheels in like in a square.
There's no ice rinks in.
No, there was. So I'll tell you the story on that. So originally, I used to watch the Mighty Ducks movies, loved them, and I had a mate in my street who he would play hockey, and I loved hockey, and I think he might have introduced me to the movies, actually told me to watch them, and I watched them, and then we just play hockey in the street. We just got rollerblades on, just hit it against wheelie bins and stuff like that. And then my parents were like, oh, do you want to get into that, like play for a team, play as a sport? And initially it was like, let's go play ice hockey, because I didn't know roller hockey existed as like a club sport, because it's quite a minority sport in the UK. And then I remember we went to the ice rink one day. I was actually ice skating, and the ice hockey players were on. They were either on before or after us, I can't remember. I was like 8 or 9 years old or something. And then it just scared the living daylights out of me. Like, I just got so scared. I mean, I was a little kid, and there's all these guys like just fanging it around, just smashing each other around, and I just got really scared. Because it's a full contact sport, so I got so scared. And then I was like, all right, I don't want to do that anymore. And then so I just went back to playing in the street, watching the movies, playing in the street, pretending I was like the superhero. And then my mum, she went to like an exercise class one time at one of the local gyms near us, like this big like complex thing, like YMCA sort of complex. And she brought home this leaflet, and it had this little like roller skate boot on the front of it, and it was like my hometown Plymouth Roller Hockey Club. It was their training, and she was like, "How do you feel about going?" And I was like, "All right, let's give it a try." Went the first day, and that was it. I was addicted.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
So with the hockey, then you got to quite a high level within hockey?
I was start training like national level. It was hard to go to. You know, you got a couple of people got selected to go and train at like the national trainings. Not everybody could go. Because if you weren't at a certain level, not good enough, you couldn't go. So I was really lucky. I was fortunate to go to those things. Other teams used to call me from, because I live nowhere near London, or any of like the big cities in the UK. I live like right down the southwest point, so you know we were like again the minority of the country. But I remember I would get calls from other teams for me to go and join their team for like a national final or something. I remember one year my dad drove me like 5 hours to go and play in 2 separate age groups for a team in the grand final.
That's mad.
They were like, and I got the trophies and everything, and they were like, we just want you to come play, because our team had got knocked out, like we were long gone. But I was the captain of my team, and they called me up and they were like, do you want to come play for our team in the final? Like, we'd love to have you. And so I would do that and then just go and play like national finals and stuff.
Yeah, sick.
Which was cool. Yeah, really cool. But then, you know, there's so much in the mental fortitude of all of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's where the mindset starts to develop. I guess that's why you are the way you are today.
Yeah.
Same thing with music, right? There's a lot of work goes into it behind the scenes that isn't really necessarily seen. Like people only see the fruits, you know, like they see the result at the end. And they don't necessarily see the process it took to get to that point. And that's where we kind of can relate our stories. So yeah, from there, how did you get into hair then? What was the hair
So
journey?
from there, again, 15, I think I was 15, 16, I had my very first girlfriend, you know, and then my mum and dad were like, I remember I was very independent at a young age. I always wanted to do everything. You know, I wanted the good clothes, I wanted the cool shoes, I wanted to go to the movies, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that. You know, it was growing up as a kid, you know, but you're one of four boys in like working class England. There's not endless amounts of money, you know. And then it was basically the conversation of like, okay, Leigh, you know, we can't afford to pay for you to do everything. You're either going to have to go out and earn your own money, or you're just going to have to reel it in. Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, all right, well, I guess I got to go and get a job then, you know. And then shitty little 15-year-old being like, oh, what am I going to do? You know, like I was like that. And then, so I think over like a period of maybe a fortnight, every like second or third night, I'd sit down with my parents at dinner and they'd be like, oh, have you thought more about what you want to do? You know, and I'd be like, no. At that time, I either just wanted to play sport to a really high level or just be a rock star.
Of course.
Those are my options, and
well,
both not overly viable to everybody. And then one night, I think they were getting a little bit frustrated with me. I just couldn't decide what I wanted to do. You know, all my mates were starting to work at supermarkets and stuff like that. I just didn't want to do it. I was like, nah, I don't want to work at a supermarket. It's a dead end job, you know. I was like, what's going to come from that, you know? And everybody was doing it, and I think I've always gone against the grain a little bit in my life. I just didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. And then my dad, it was like, it's funny coming from my dad, but he was like, oh, you care about your hair so much. Why don't you be a hairdresser? And I don't know why, but it just struck a chord. I was like, oh, yeah, maybe. Like, that was probably the most sensible thing that we've said over the last fortnight. And then the reasons started trickling in. You know, my dad's a builder, and he wanted us boys to try something else before we sort of ended up doing that, you know, just be like, because that was a safe bet. I could have done that. I could just be like, all right, well, I'll just go work with my dad and, you know, have a life in that, you know. So yeah, he brought that up, and then the reasons started trickling in. You know, he'd be like, oh, well, look at me. I'll come home from work and I'm dirty and filthy every day, so you'd be nice and clean, you'd be smelling nice, you'd be working with nice looking girls all day, all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I want to do that. And then doubling up on that, the salon that I used to go to was one of the better salons in the city, if not the best salon in the city. And there was 3 guys working in there. They would cut my hair, all straight guys, and I got along really well with them. So I was like,
you were exposed to it.
I was exposed to it,
and you saw what it could be. You could see, okay, this seems like it could be enjoyable.
Exactly. It was that exposure.
It's better than getting covered in shit all day.
Exactly. So then the dots just started joining up. I was like, all right, well, that makes sense. I'll be clean all day. I'll smell nice. I could have my hair done.
And you get exposure to meeting some girls as well.
Exactly. At the time, it was just like, all right, well, you know, keep your options open, right? Like,
100%. What age were you at that stage? 16?
Yeah, 15, 16. Yeah. I was just a youngster. You know, I was still at school. This is the thing. I was still at school as well. And we were having like career meetings at school. The teacher would be like, all right, Leigh, what do you want to do? You know, the conversation was like a 2-minute conversation. Because he would be like, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I'm already working in a salon, thinking about doing an apprenticeship when I finish. And he was like, all right. Cool. I can see you doing that. And
why not?
Why not?
Simple,
you know?
Simple. So 16 years in now, just to put it into perspective and context.
In September, I'll tick into my 16th year. Next month.
That's wild, isn't it?
That's a long time.
It's about September time for me too when I started. September is like a good month for us, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's I think in the UK as well, it's when the school year starts, isn't it? And I think we finish up our summers and then we start a new thing in September.
So when we always start new things in September.
Life.
We started our lives in September. We can start.
We grace this planet
in September, hopefully, if COVID allows it. But okay. So from there, started working in the salon in England. Like, how did How long were you there before you decided that you wanted to come to Australia? Or what was the kind of
I'll reverse a little on that, because I guess the story in those sort of 4 or 5 years that I started was, I think, was paramount in my journey.
Yeah.
Like the whole journey that I've done. Get back to working with other straight guys, that was great. As a young, I'm not saying now it wouldn't even matter to me, but as a youngster at that age in the UK at that time, when the mentality was not great around guys cutting hair, and there was a lot of noise, there was noise around me, people were like, oh, why are you doing that, this, that, the other. That really sort of solidified it. The other great thing was they were a very competitive salon.
Okay.
And that's where the link comes in between the sport and my early mindset, and then into my competitive career as a hairdresser. The guys that I worked with in the UK, shout out to Matt and Rob and their dad Pete, they were at a salon called Bowler's Hair and Beauty in Plymouth in the UK. They were both British hairdressing champions in the same year. Wow. Senior and junior. Yeah, so Matt was the older brother. He won the British Championships as a senior. Rob, his younger brother, won the British Championships as a junior. 2 brothers took it out in the same year. They were training with the British hairdressing team. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So like to see the it's kind of like our shop now, to see the certificates on the walls and the trophies. I'd be the kid shining the trophies, and just looking at them and reading them and being like, whoa, because I had that similar thing at home. I had all my hockey trophies and my certificates. I'm like, oh wow, this could just convert over. This is where I need to be,
But you kind of like, when you see that too, you kind of, from your past up to that point, like doing sport, you can kind of see how to reverse engineer that then. You know the process, you're going to have to work hard to get there, but you can see the results, and to be around that is great. I think it's very valuable to have seen that from early in your career, because then that's what you kind of aspire towards, and that's the level of work that you put in. And you probably saw within them guys the level of effort and work that they put in.
It was ridiculous. They tell me to get to a comp like that, you'd need to start training 3 months out. 3 months out from a freaking hairdressing competition. Like, what are you training for?
Then it's like, but then like when you say training, like how do you even do that?
Exactly.
Because there's probably a lot of people listening to this that would think, oh, I'd love to get into competition work, and that's something we can definitely touch on within the podcast in general. But like, how do you even train for a competition then?
Exactly. And then so I had the mentality from sport, years and years and years of training in sport. I was crazy on it. Our training. So at the club that I trained at, it would start at 7 p.m. and end at 10 p.m. Right, 7 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. or 7 till 8 or whatever it was for the young guys. I'd be there at 7 p.m. helping to training them. I'd be doing the drills myself, just as I just couldn't get enough of the training. I saw how valuable it was, and I think the people around me, I also used to train play in older teams as well, because I was quite good at my age group. I'd always play with the older guys, and they would always tell me how important it is just to keep practicing. My dad would always tell me the same thing: practice. So I'd turn up at 7, I'd leave at 10 p.m, do both training sessions, then go home. This is like 10:30 at night by the time you get home, and I'd be in my living room with the stick and the ball, just doing drills. Like my dad would be like, "What is wrong with you? When are you going to go bed?" And I'd just light up. The moment there was a time to get better, I'd just light up and the energy was just endless, because it would just feed me so much.
It's like a conditioning thing, isn't it? It's like a trend that continues in your life. I'm very much the same. Very, very much the same.
I think I was so lucky as well. Developing the ability to learn and to succeed at the particular skill you're trying to learn. I was relentless at it, and I've been like that since a kid, and that carried in with me to hair. I knew, and
probably the humility in the learning process too, right? Like, so being able to be there from 7 p.m. with the juniors or with the younger guys, even if you're one of the best on the senior team or whatever, to be there and still to be able to have that mentality to want to learn something new. Because
there's lots that goes into that. I wanted to keep an eye on the younger guys as well, because what if one of those are getting as good as me, and then, but there's also so much they can see off of you. Because I was a young guy. I was like 15, playing in the men's team. They were big guys, and I was good enough and could hold my own enough to play in their team. I was a beacon for the young guys too. They'd be like, oh, I want to be like that.
Like
you
an
know?
example.
An example. And, you know, they'd be like, oh, and he's training with us, you know? It just, everything levels up, and you can see how that mentality relates into everything that we do today.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, there's like so much humility there. This is going to sound like you're blowing smoke up your own ass here, but it's like you need an element of humility. You know, what is all this without it?
No, exactly. And we always say it, like, to come back to like today with Area Academy, it's like when we're in an academy session or we're doing a session for somebody, it's coming down to, not even coming down to, but just making yourself relatable enough to be able to understand where somebody's at with their journey. So if somebody starts, you know, you can bring your experience back to the beginning, you know, and be like, okay, well, how can I help this person get to where I'm at? And then you learn something in the process of that too, right? Like, yeah, it's mad.
Yeah, like even talking about it now, there's so many other little things that I keep thinking about that it's almost impossible to explain all of the intricacies of why I am the way I am. You know,
there's
like
probably certain moments, there's certain things for me with my life up to this point that really stand out, you know.
Like those pivotal...
Like when you think of hockey, right, you think of music, you think of a few things, probably a few key moments pop up in your mind.
100%.
And they're like the key learnings that you take and you move forward.
I'll tell you two things that I lived by. I hated them when I first heard them. My dad was great at this. My dad was really good at giving like these little like nuggets of like advice on, I guess, kind of how to live your life, but how to just like decision making. He would say, Leigh, you don't ever want to be the guy that just does enough.
Yeah.
And any time I would do that, because look, I'm going to admit I was good at school, you know, I didn't really find it that hard, you know. Probably could have been a really good scholar at it. We've gone to uni and done all that stuff. But at school, I would do just enough just to get the homework done. Because I knew I could. I'd just be like, all right, well, that's the answer, blah, blah, blah. And then my dad would be like, I think he would just, I don't know, whether it was a bit of frustration, be like, you're just doing enough. Why are you just doing enough? You know, you don't want to be that guy. And then one night, I was like, I kicked back one night and I was like, all right, well, what do you mean? How can I do any more? And he was like, well, let's have a look at your maths homework. Looked at my maths homework. You know, he had that squared paper. That it was an A4 paper with like all the squares on it. He was like, right, every equation, use a ruler. Write every number perfectly in the middle of the box. Perfect lines. This. I did my whole thing. I got him to check it. Every equation was correct, right? Handed it in. The teacher come back to me. She gave me 4 house points and wrote this huge note on the bottom and said, that's the best piece of homework I've ever seen. And that's just like a pivotal moment when you're like, oh, you need those moments as a kid to be like, oh, okay, that's the best you've ever seen. And like, I held this teacher in high regard, you know. I was like, whoa, that's what that did. So that was one of them. That was that one piece of advice. Don't be the person that does just enough. I think that's a roundabout way of saying don't be average, isn't it? Don't just be the average, because everybody can be average.
Everyone's doing that already.
Yep.
You know, that's not your point of difference. You know, it's funny enough, before you get to the second point, when I was in school, it was very much similar. I wasn't necessarily seen as great in school with my results, but I know well that I didn't put any effort into it. Yeah. Because I just wasn't interested. Yeah. If I'm not interested in something, I just simply can't do it. Like, I just can't bring my mind to do it. Yeah. My mind can be used elsewhere.
Do you think you can't do it? You're not capable, or you just I can't want to put the...
No, I can't be arsed doing it.
That's me.
It's not that I can't do it, because like there's been times where, like, tech graph is an example, right? Technical graphics.
Yep.
I remember my teacher in school. I was alright at it, you know. I was good at it, but I just couldn't be arsed, because I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do. Yeah. You know, so I was like, I just couldn't see the point in doing it. And I have done a few great pieces of homework and got great results in exams, but then when I do it, like English, I was good at English, right? So I'd write a good English essay. I remember one time in my junior cert, which is like the one before leaving cert, I got like one of the highest marks in the class. I think maybe the highest mark in the class for English. And my teacher was shocked at the time, because I really just put an effort in, almost like to prove him wrong in a way. Yeah. But then once I'd done it once, I was kind of like, this isn't really what I want to do, so I don't care, you know? Yeah. And I just didn't bother doing it again. I just got average results from there, because school just wasn't something that interested me. But it's interesting, like the lessons that you learn within that about yourself. When I look back on it now, just such a pivotal time, you know?
I look back on school, I loved it.
Yeah.
There were probably times, you know, because again, I wanted to be a rock star, rebel against the system, you know.
Yeah,
There's probably times I'd probably walk around saying that, telling everybody, "Oh, this is shit. I can't wait to leave."
That was part of the persona, wasn't it?
But then,
like, of being a rock
star. I look
star.
back, man, I loved it. I don't know what you were like at school, but I just got along with most people. I got along with most people. Like, I could fit into most social circles.
Do you reckon that's how we found hair too? Like, and how we've maintained a career in the hair
Probably,
industry?
yeah, because you need a bit of that.
You need that relatability.
Yeah.
The interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
That are very hard to teach.
Yep.
But yeah, let's just get back to the second point.
Yeah. So the second point, another one. This is very basic stuff, but there's a lot of interpretation to be had on these points. The second point was, my dad would always say, sometimes in life you have to do things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And like that, you know, you could take that the wrong way, because you could be like, well, why would I spend a life of doing things that don't serve me? But it's not about that. So if you think about back to school, this is why I was like asking you, do you think you couldn't do the work, or you just didn't want to do the work? It's like, what would have happened if we just did it? You know, like sometimes if you take that in mind, just, all right, I don't want to do this, but I'm just going to do it. I wonder what would have happened. But the other thing that relates into training as well, or like you were saying, something that you put up the other day about the compounding effect. You know, there's so many little things that give us a headache when we do them, but later on there's a payoff, or you become good at it and you end up enjoying it, or you know, you're not going to enjoy everything that you do. You can't. There's parts of the process that you're just not going to enjoy. And I think my dad would probably say that to me. As a kid, I was quite independent, and I wanted to be independent. You give a young kid independence, they just take everything they can get, you know. They're like, yeah, especially when you're like 15, 16, you're changing anyway. You're trying to establish yourself against how your parents brought you up. And so he would say that to me. He'd be like, look, sometimes in life you just got to do things that you don't want to do. So those two things paired together, they help each other really well. Don't be the guy that just does enough. And sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do.
100%.
And like that to me got me through most stuff.
You know, for
like
sure.
I don't know what else.
Like I think when I was in school, in terms of not being arsed, not wanting to do it, I think it just didn't stimulate me, and I knew that from a pretty early age. I was like, I'm not taking the college route. I just don't want to go the same way everyone else is going. I just knew straight. I don't know why. I just did. Because I had a different focus, you know. I had my cycling career and that I wanted to work on. But yeah, there's definitely lessons to be learned within it. And I think, you know, even going to school, that is the thing that I didn't want to do, and I had to do it up to a certain point. That was the rule I made with my mom. I was like, we have to get to this point before I can do what I want to do. So like, I wasn't doing my homework in that. I was.
And that's fair though, because it is a privilege. You know, if you think about it, privilege to have that. And
look, I wasn't like the scholar. I wasn't good in school. In that regard, but I could have been if I applied myself. And that's what all my teachers always said anyway. So anyway,
I'll take that.
Let's take that. Anyway, let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. So there,
so that takes me up to, you know, where I joined the salon. Like the guys were competitive, saw the trophies. They were doing at the time. This is before what we know now, men's hair, how we know it now. They were like men's hair specialists at the time. They were hairdressers in their own right. They did women's hair as well. Trained and did all that, but primarily men's hair specialists, and very, very good for their time. Like still to this day, this is going to sound egotistical, but apart from us, like in our environment, I still haven't seen people put in that much effort and amount like attention to detail ever. All the salons that I've been to, all the people I've seen work, those guys, there was something about they were meticulous in the details, and that I think again relates back to early days, training in sport, this playing guitar, playing drums. If you're meticulous in the details, man, those little details count, don't they?
They add up, they compound.
Like again, it's those little things that compound. So I would see that, and I started from there, and I was really, really lucky because I started before I actually was eligible to start an apprenticeship. Remember at this time I was still at school, so I was just sweeping hair, making cups of tea, you know, washing towels, you know, shining the trophies, you know, that stuff, taking payments, whatever.
You're in the trenches. You're doing your time.
In the trenches, exactly.
You were doing your time. You were observing.
This is the other thing.
That's one thing Hannah always says to me. Like she says, you're really good at observing. You're a very observant person.
Like,
You reckon? Like,
you won't believe it. Steph says the same thing to me, right?
You're very observant. Like, you see I don't miss anything, bro.
Nope.
I miss nothing.
Don't worry. And Steph says the same thing to me. So we had this little social gathering, and we had a few drinks and whatever. And we were sat outside. I think someone might have been smoking or something, and we were sat outside, and I was just sat quietly in the corner, just observing the conversation.
Yeah.
And she said, why do you always do that? It's like you're judging everybody. And it was, I knew I was like it, but I really thought, yeah, why am I like it? But I just observe.
Yeah.
I love all the details. I love the intricacies of the conversation.
Yeah.
You know, and there's been other experiences that I've had since that, different journeys and things that I've, deeper self journeys that I've worked out why I am like that.
Yeah.
We can maybe save that for another conversation, but I now know.
Back to learning, being a good learner as well. Like, I always say it's something I say to other people, but not necessarily about myself. But you do have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should listen twice as much as you speak. Is it like, yeah? Because then you're going to learn more.
Exactly.
And then
so there's that part of it for me that I learn a lot about the people, and again that we can take that into our concepts into the barbershop. But then there was another thing that different journeys that I've been on since then, digging into the deeper things of my personality. I worked out that is my moment to absorb all the information, and I'm just waiting to help. So there's a part of my personality that just wants to help, and I'm still trying to work out if that's for my ego or not. Yeah. But it makes so much sense. I love the intricacies. I love the details. I love the information. I could get so into it. And the other part of this journey that what I learned about myself, then I questioned and said, okay, why do I need to know everything? Okay, all right, I want to help, but why do I need to know everything? And the answer was, well, if you don't know everything, how do you expect to help people?
Yeah. You
have
to take in all the information first.
And that is, if I'm quite quiet in social situations. It's not because I'm antisocial. It's not because I don't want to be there. I'm just observing. I'm waiting. And look, maybe I need to do deeper work to work out if that's egotistical or not. But
I don't know.
I don't mind it. I actually don't mind it.
I feel like a lot of it comes down to like EQ too. Like your emotional intelligence. Like sometimes I notice about my personality that I'm very quick to pick up on what's right and what's wrong in situations. Like I can very easily fit myself into a room, and be comfortable, and I know what to say and when to say it.
Steph says that to me all the time. We've met people before, first time ever, and I would say, be careful of that person.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, nah, because everyone's her friend to start with. She'll be, oh, they're great, we're friends now. And I'm like, okay, I don't feel the same. I'm just getting something from the energy. Yeah. Be careful. Yeah. 6 weeks down the line, Leigh, how did you know that? You were right. This happened. I'm like, well, I don't know what it is. It's just like a sense, 100%, but maybe that's our ability. We're same birth sign, right? We're Virgos. There's an ability, I think, to just assess energy and just go full circle around it, Yeah. Some people just get like a very 2D vision of it, Yeah.
It's just taking in everything, and Hannah's actually really good at doing that as well. She said it to me about people, Yeah. And I haven't fully seen everything. Yeah. Or I give people benefit of the doubt or whatever it may be. But I think, just in terms of observing and taking everything on board, emotional intelligence, knowing when to say something, when not to say something, it kind of accumulates to a good career as a hairdresser or a barber, and it accumulates to being a good educator. Yeah. And good person to
learning how to have good interactions. So paramount. If you met me, and again, being thrown in at a 15, 16-year-old in a salon was amazing for me. It, hairdressing has changed me massively. In those interaction skills, I realized I couldn't be the rock star that I wanted to be and only care about that. I was just, if an older, client was sat in the salon, I wouldn't even know why I wanted to talk to him. Why would I talk to that guy? But this,
what? I think looking at the way the world has evolved now, right, since that time, and the way that the salon and the barbershop has evolved since then, being an observer is no longer cool. You know what I mean?
Elaborate on that.
So at that time, right, you were being observant, you were cleaning the trophies, you were learning, you were watching, you were shadowing essentially throughout those years. But now nobody wants to do that.
Nobody wants to do it.
It's not sexy to do that.
Nope.
Like, you know, nobody really wants to be the observer or the like.
And that I think
nobody wants to be the apprentice. You know.
No, and that was gold. Yeah, that was gold for me. You know, like I said, so getting back to the little story timeline that I was on, I'd be in the salon sweeping hair, making cups of tea, washing the towels, taking the payments, shining the trophies. And they said, once all that's done, they said, shining the trophies. And they said, once that's done, come and watch. And that was, I had full right and full ability to watch. And that was gold for me.
You know what? You develop respect too. Like respect for them guys.
I watched the interactions, I watched the haircuts, I watched the workflow, everything, how they dealt with their tools, how they clean their tools, how they hold their tools, how they greet the person, that whole, again, but look at I was very lucky. I have very good mentors. Yes,
good mentors.
Good mentors.
Being around that 10% too. You know, like the 10% at the top of every, I guess, every industry. Like in cycling, I was there. I was around that top 10%.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And you develop a different mentality.
You
see how people work. It's not all that it's put out to be. Like what you see online, I know it sounds so cliche saying this because you'll hear it in fucking nearly every podcast in the world, but what you'd see at the tip of the mountain is literally the fucking tip of the iceberg. Like there's so much that goes into it to get you to that point. Even what you see on our Instagrams, it's not even like
it's not even close.
Not even close. It's just a tiny bit of what you
I'm on a bit of a rampage at the minute, just content galore, but it's
but if you don't put it out, it's just going to continue. It will get lost.
It will get lost. But the other thing is, that's just a small slice of the cake.
Yeah, it's tiny.
You know, it's a really small slice.
It's tiny. We're so like far down the line from what we're actually sharing today.
Yeah,
it's nuts. But so from there,
so that's where it started. So this is why I love this, man. Yeah. People are going to get the insights.
Yeah, that's it. I think there's so much value in it though. There's a lesson from each time. It's like chapters of a book. Like your life is like a chapter of a book. And I'm sure
this will keep coming up in other podcasts. We'll keep digging into different chapters of these, because each chapter we talk about here, that could open up as well.
Yeah, and like that's why I'm excited to have our own podcast, because usually if we are a guest in people's podcasts, you only have an hour.
Yeah.
And how can you fit everything into that hour? Like we might not even, today's your story, the next podcast is my story, but what's to say that we're not going to cover everything?
Exactly.
Which we probably won't.
No.
And we'll bring up different experiences that we've had in the next episodes. And then you start introducing guests and you can get into it with them, and it's crazy. Yeah. So from there, Leigh, you were in the salon, you started cutting.
Started cutting, so I was lucky they got me doing odd jobs. They'd get me to like shave someone's head or clean up someone's neck hair. This is when square necklines was still a thing, by the way. So they'd be like, Leigh, do you want to just line up the neckline or whatever, Yeah. And I would just be doing that, trimming eyebrows, cleaning up neck, all that stuff. So I had a good feel for the tools before I even started my apprenticeship. Yeah. Again, it's being proactive, forward thinking. Nobody wants to be doing that. They want to be doing skin fade in 2 weeks. Nobody wants to be trimming neck hairs for months on end. So I would do that, and then finish school. All those things happened. Finish school. Then I said to my boss, I was like, look, can we have a chat one day? I think she thought I was going to quit, but I actually said the opposite. I said, look, I'd love to start an apprenticeship if the opportunity's there. And this was the boss's wife. She would do all the interviewing. She said, we were waiting for you to ask. So that was it. I just stayed. I think I took a week off, because you know how everybody finishes up school and then they have the summer holidays, don't they? And that was like end of school. Everybody had the summer holidays. I had a week. I think I had about 5 days. I had 5 days off, straight to work all summer holidays. I was like 16. Yeah. And then worked all the way through, started my apprenticeship in September. And then from then it was like, it was on. It was on. I was in competition mode. Like they were like, right, well, it was almost like first day. So when are we going to do the first competition? I'm like, what? They were like, well, there's apprenticeship competitions. There's this.
It's nice to have deadlines, though. It's nice to work towards something, and have that. I think you've always had that from your sporting career, so you never really develop a tendency to chill.
Nope.
Like I can't chill either, man. I've got no chill.
No.
But you develop that from an early age, in an early time in your life.
Yep.
So getting straight into the competition work is crazy.
Oh man, first year I was doing apprenticeship competitions. I think I got my first ever one. I got like a third place, got a bronze medal. in the blow dry category, because
Lovely.
I couldn't even cut. I was just blow drying people's hair. This is another great point. We would learn to blow dry before we even cut hair. So I was a hairdresser originally.
Because you're learning to look at what it should
and the
look
finish
like.
and the shape. So
Yeah.
someone else would cut the haircut for me.
This is what it should look like.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. So
Yeah.
someone else would cut it, color it, all that stuff. I would come and blow dry it, and they would just judge on the styling. And then you would learn, you'd see the shapes in the haircut as
See
you blow
how
dry
they
it.
fall, where the weight falls,
Yeah.
what length you should take. Certain.
This is one of the difficult things for me to get my head around with the men's hair industry now. I just think there's not enough focus on finishing, blow drying, styling, finishing. There's just not enough focus on it.
Yeah,
It's usually an afterthought.
Yeah, and I had this conversation not so long ago. I was in a call. It's probably some undisclosed information, but who cares? I was on a call.
It's our podcast now.
Not a call, but it was more like a meeting or an industry type event, and the discussion was there about should styling and finishing be a module in the course for barbering, and I was like, of course, because what we're doing is selling a product, right?
Yeah.
Like a haircut essentially is a product. You come in, you get your service, you leave with something. It's a product.
Yep.
It's a haircut, it's a style, it's whatever it is.
Yep.
And it's totally relevant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, 100%. And I think we're lucky at our academy. We put a lot of focus on styling. So, we'll slowly push that a bit more in the industry, I think. So I started there, competing.
So
early
straight
days,
into
it. And then,
do you think you're a competitive person?
yes,
Yeah.
100%. I hate losing. I hate it. I can't, and I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I don't know if it's more I hate someone being better than me, or I hate that I just didn't do it good enough. I don't really know which one it is.
Yeah.
I haven't really worked it out, because now, if someone beats me in a competition, I'll just walk up to them and give them a handshake. I'm like, well done, great work.
Yeah.
There's still that rage inside me. I'm like,
if it is great work, though.
Yeah, if it is great work, but I don't know what I
like
just can't work it out.
It's tough. The metrics of it in hair are so tough, because it's like it's such an opinion. It's
subjective.
It's so subjective.
So
like,
subjective.
how can you say that one haircut is better than another haircut? There's no real measurement to judge it off of.
No.
And it's such an opinion based thing. It's like that's what kind of what I struggle with the hair stuff. Like in a bike race, you either win the bike race or you don't win the bike race. You're first across the line or you're not. Like, it's very simple to kind of judge it, but
That's interesting. So when I came to Australia, competitions were so weird for me, because in the UK, the competitions especially the boys that I worked for, everybody did the same hairstyle. It was who could do the best hairstyle. And it was all like, when you were in the British hairdressing team, you would do like those hair sculptures. I've shown you them before, with the interesting details in them, the weird colours. It was all in the blow dry and the cut. And one time I asked them, I was like, why is it like this? Why isn't anyone doing a different thing? And they were like, well, it's really a showcase of skill with the tools, the craftsmanship, the artistry, how good are you at using your tools as a craftsman. That changes everything, because that's not so subjective. There's a difference between
the complexity of it.
You can do a perfect blow dry, and the next person has done a 95% perfect blow dry. The perfect one wins. And there is a cut when you go to those competitions called the perfect hair. It's called the perfect cut, because if it's not perfect, it's no good. That's what they used to say to me. And it's called a sculpture cut, and you just basically blow dry in, like, look for the number 7 shape in the haircut, and they were like, if it's not perfect, it's no good. That takes
I feel like the UK push that a lot more than they do here.
Yeah.
Somebody will do like a half-assed job here.
Yeah,
like, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. In the UK, you can't get away with it.
You get fucking scrutinized. It's so hard.
But that would take all the subjectivity out of it, because you'd have a mannequin head, or when you got to like Worlds, everybody had to have proper models, like proper live models. But for the most part, you'd have mannequin heads, so there was no subjectivity. Everybody had the same canvas. It would come pre-cut for the majority of the time, and you'd style it in, and whoever's was the best was the best. There was no way around it.
Yeah.
But now, when I come to Australia, working in competitions where everybody could do a different haircut, there's so much subjectivity in that. Like, who says which one's right and wrong?
Yeah, there's none.
There isn't.
None. There's none. But yeah, like for me, like I feel like I always say, I'm not that much of a competitive person. Like when I left my cycling career, I think that's partly the reason why it didn't work out for me, but was being nearly a bit too blasé and not cutthroat enough. Yeah. And I never thought I'd get into the competition side of hair until I came here. But in essence, I would say I'm quite competitive, but more so with myself. It's like the fear of leaving myself down.
Interesting.
It's almost like I'm afraid of leaving myself down. If I knew that I could have done something better, then or I can do something at a higher kind of level or standard, or in my eyes, because it's all again subjectivity in my opinion. But so you were quite successful in the competitions.
In the early days. So I think my first ever apprentice competition, I got like a 3rd place. Then I started to win some. I started in my 2nd year, 3rd year.
So this is a trend. This didn't just start in 2020, because some people will probably only have discovered.
Well, this is it.
What year was this?
This was 2006, 2007.
Yeah. All right. So compounding. Yeah.
This is early. So this is early
15
compounding.
Years of compounding.
I've gone from. I've gone from early days of sport, winning tournaments and national trophies and stuff like that. So again, I'm not saying that's everything, but it sets a certain mindset.
You know what's interesting? Like even thinking it's brought us to today, right? To this point, we're still looking for the little details in how we can make this better.
Always.
So, do you want to explain what we did before with the coffee?
Yeah. So I introduced Owen to bulletproof coffee. So for all you coffee fans out there, you can level up your coffee by dropping in some butter, so organic grass-fed butter, and MCT oil, and that will give you the fatty acids to fuel the brain. Then we added in, what else did we put in? We put in a mushroom complex, so a little bit of reishi, lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps. There was just like a complex which again gets the brain firing, and some pineal pollen, or pine pollen, as some people call it, which will boost testosterone levels. So optimization on all levels, and we're fasted. If you can count the butter in, but they show that butter won't actually break a fast because the liver actually doesn't produce insulin, so technically we're still glucose fasted. So we're just using fat for energy. So all of that, the sharpness of the fasting, the double shot of coffee, which is shown to boost ketone levels massively and increase brain function. The butter, the MCT oil, the mushroom complex, and the pine pollen amplified the brain. But it's those little details.
But that's the thing. To relate it to where we were in the conversation. It comes from a mindset that you've developed from very early on, and it's not just something that recently you decided, I'm going to be an educator, or I'm going to be, going for Barber of the Year, or men's hairdresser of the year.
And like you were saying, the small details, I have been, something that I used to pride myself on, I've always been very technique focused. So I remember even playing hockey, there was a thing where most people, if you're right-handed, you start by playing with your left hand at the top. For some reason, most people just pick up a stick and they put their left hand at the top. The trick that the Europeans would do to take it to the next level, they change it. So from a young age, you put your right hand at the top. So all the control comes from the top of the stick. There was 50-50 of us. 50% of people would be like, nah, I'm not even going to bother. I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to get good at that. If that's what takes me to the next level, I'm going to do it. I did it. Boom. Just went nuts. Absolutely mental.
Southpaw.
Changing my stance.
You're a southpaw.
Boom, boom.
So when are you getting the left-handed scissors?
Look at. Have you seen? I've got video somewhere of me cutting with scissors in both hands.
Really?
I've got
Edward Scissorhands.
I used to do it in the salon. I used to cut bobs with 2 pairs of scissors.
Jeez, you need to put.
So I'd
get a reel going of that.
I'd comb the sections in. Say I'm cutting a neck like a concave neckline, and I get 2 pairs of scissors, and go boom, 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 and cut them in. And I do cheek lines I go boom, boom, cut them in. Because really, if we're looking at balance, we probably should be doing that. Scissors working in the same. Because you have to flip the scissors.
100%.
Anyway, that's just intricate details. See where this goes. That's how deep it goes.
It goes very deep. Very deep.
But I've always been technique orientated, and I used to pride myself on that. And that comes into all the little details. Even I can see it. this is going to sound like egotistical as well, but someone said it to me once, and I loved it so much it struck a chord. They said, "You've got good hands." I was working in a salon, and the guy was like, "I can already see you've got good hands." He saw me do like one haircut, half a haircut, and I can see it now. If someone comes to the salon or comes to a class or we're watching someone, you can see how they hold their tools, hold their clippers. You can see it, and I don't know what it is. It's 100%, man. It's an attention to detail, attention to technique. I can just see it immediately. Even someone will pick up a clipper or a pair of scissors, you go, but this is gonna be nice. Yeah, this is gonna be good. You could just see it.
Yeah, my mom used to say the same thing to me, like, because I again used to care about my hair and style my own hair and stuff. Yeah. And she used to say, "Yeah, you'd actually make a great hairdresser." Yeah. Or a great she didn't obviously click the barbering thing together, but she was like, "Yeah, you have it in the hands. Yeah. Just the way you touch your own hair."
What do they call you?
Oh, feather fingers. Nah, I call that a self-proclaimed.
That's a nice one, though.
Yeah,
it's not the worst one.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad.
It'd be worse if it was magic fingers.
Yeah, exactly.
That just gets weird. It gets weird. Cool. So
from there,
we started to do well in competitions. Started to win some. Started to progress through my apprenticeship. Again, you think about all the training, all the progress. You know, again, I was just taught by some great mentors. There was a guy in our city. I think he had Greek background. He was a Greek hairdresser, like ancestry, and he was doing a lot of Tony and Guy courses. I think he might have taught some Tony and Guy courses, worked with some great hairdressers in London, and I was paying attention to him, and he would show me some fantastic things with the scissors. You know that thing that I always say about distributing weight, starting at the internal most point and working to the external? That's the guy that taught me that from like 2006, 2007. I've never forgotten it. And it blows my mind how many people don't know it. But this is how good this guy was. And he was like probably 60 at the time. So he had a whole career before this. And he was telling me this at the start of my career. And I'm now passing it on. So those are little details that I've always remembered. So I would do that. Yeah, competitions, lots of training. And then I start finishing coming to finishing my apprenticeship. In the UK, you do MVQ. So I got MVQ 2 and 3, which equates to like Aussie 3 and 4, Cert 3 and 4. And then they would always have a end of year hair show. It was like part of your qualification, big hair show. They'd hire out the guild hall in the city. It was amazing. Catwalk, the whole shebang, lights, cameras. It was amazing. And in my final year, I won it. I come first place. I won the whole show. Sick. And it blew my mind up. But again, it was the effort. People saw the end thing. I spent 3 weeks making a headpiece. I was like 16, 17, 17 years old, 18 years old, whatever it was.
It was like a chandelier.
It was massive. It was like this cascading thing. And I shared a room with my brother at this point. I had this thing clamped to a desk in my bedroom in a tiny house in the UK for 3 weeks. He'd walk in every day and be like, "What on earth are you doing?" He's like, "When is this going to go? Like, can I just have some space back now?" So I did that, won my last hair show. And then that was it. It was great. It was all systems go. Started working on the floor full time. This whole time I'd built a clientele, so by the time it come to working on the floor, I'd already had a clientele. I was booked quite a lot of the time, which was amazing. I was bringing in all the younger guys, all the students, so that I was doing all the cool haircuts, and people knew me to do the cool haircuts. I had lots of friends with cool hair because we were all into music, the music scene. I was getting all like the cool long hair. So that's like long hair coming in now, dude. I've been doing long hair since because everybody had long hair, nobody had fades. All the cool kids had all the long hair, the long fringes, all that stuff, disconnections. So I was doing that, and then talking about pivotal moments, I went to a music festival with one of my friends, the guy Ben who I was telling you about earlier, the guy who used at a hair show. We went to a hair festival, not a hair festival, a music festival, Reading Festival in the UK. And we saw one of our favourite bands play it ever, Blink-182. They headlined. It's a little blast from the past. But we saw them headline, and we had such a good weekend. We were like, I don't want to go home. We were like, let's not go home. At this point, we're just hungover and probably talking shit, being half serious. We were like, well, let's not go home. And then we kind of just like, all right, circulating that idea. And then he texted me again, sort of a couple of days later. It's like, were you serious about it? And so we met up for a beer, and we were like, well, if we're serious about not going home, where are we going to go? And we were like, Australia. we knew a guy that had been to Australia. And we were like,
the furthest away point you could possibly go.
Let's go to Australia. And we were like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then Ben was like, if I go, I'm never going home. I'm like, what? That's a bit much, mate. Like, I'm actually having a good, I'm actually like killing it here, you know. I'm having a good career. Like, I'm going hard, you know.
Yeah.
And then he planted that, you know. Well, I guess we come to, you know, this idea about it. And then again, he texted me a few days later. He was like, should we just go book a flight? And I was like, all right. So I met him. We went into the travel agents, and we said, we want to go to Australia, 6 months time. What's the best deal you can do? And they were like, I think it was between Sydney and Adelaide. And they were like, Sydney's going to be this, Adelaide's going to be this. Adelaide was like £50 cheaper. So we were like, Adelaide it is. So I had no idea about the geographical layout of Australia. We were
forget the Opera House, forget the Harbour
Bridge.
That,
yeah.
Nah, let's just go to Adelaide.
Take me to the city of churches.
Yes, let's go. Let's go. One-way ticket, baby.
Yeah, and it was a one-way ticket.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then the turn of events after that, that was like, it was quite a stressful time because it you know, it put a bit of a upset in the spanner in the works, basically. I really wanted to do this. I really wanted to go overseas. I was like, right, my parents had always told me, as soon as you can, get out of here, go and experience it. Because they didn't get the chance to do it, you know. And this is where I've been so lucky in my life. Like, I've always had that encouragement. And so they would tell me, go out and get it, go out and experience the world. You know, we didn't get to do it. They got married young, had kids young, basically worked to live for the whole duration of us growing up. That's just what it's like in the UK. You could probably relate, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a different generation.
Yeah,
different generation, different set of beliefs, different set of values. We're less, I guess, aware of the opportunities that they could have, and we're probably a bit scared to do it as well. Yeah, there was a lot of fear involved. So you just took the opportunity.
So got that, and then it was.
What did they think of the salon at the time? Were they upset?
No, it was 6 months. I had 6 months, and I kept it quiet for a long time.
So what? You booked the flights.
I booked the flight
6 months later.
We basically
so you booked it 6 months in advance.
I booked it in October and came here in April.
Okay.
So, and I started to tell. I want to give them like 6 weeks notice. I gave them 6 week notice at the salon, and I don't think anyone really believed me. You know, it was like back in the day where people were like, oh yeah. Lee's just saying that, you know. Yeah. And then it got closer and closer and closer, and like, yeah, I'm going. And my parents were even a bit like, oh, you're actually doing this? Like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. And my dad started asking me funny questions, like, so where's the paperwork then? Where's this? Where's that? And I'm like, Dad, it's the internet. Like, I was like, it's all fine, because I had nothing really physical to show, you know. I probably just had like a printout of the flights or whatever. I was like, well, the flights are here. That's all you need to know. You know, he's like, where's this? Where's that? I'm like, Dad, it's not 1960, all right? Like, I've got emails, it's on the internet, I'll be fine, you know, I've saved my money. So let's talk about the events after that. So yeah, 6 months. I had lots coming up as well. So I entered the South West of England Hairdressing Championships, which I ended up winning. Yeah. I became, at 19, I was the South West of England Hairdressing Champion, senior champion. So I beat all the adults. And there were some like people that I looked up to in there. I just went ham. I just did all the events I could. You know, like we turn up at HBIA, I just did everything. Yeah, just everything. I laid it all on the table. I shut out all the noise. I did exactly what I wanted to do, exactly what I wanted to see, and I just went mental. Took out the trophy. The night before that competition, I actually had my leaving party for Australia, so I was also hungover. Yeah. And I still won the trophy. Thank you very much.
I know that feeling.
You know that feeling well.
Usually I come second though. But
yeah. Well, we can have it all, mate. Hey, this is my time, all right?
All right. Okay, I'm zipped up over here, bro. Don't worry.
And then a week, and then I did an American crew photo shoot as well, when it was called Face Off. Not All-Star Challenge. So I did my first ever face-off challenge. I didn't win that one. I didn't even get through to, I didn't get finalists, but we got invited. You got invited to the show, and that's how you found out if you're a finalist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you got invited. And we went to Manchester. We went to the cricket ground in Manchester.
Good way of getting people there.
It was epic. Hey?
Yeah, good way of getting people there.
Oh, it was so good. It was epic. So Asahi Beer sponsored it.
Lovely.
And it was epic, man. With just all the Asahi beer you could have. And I went up with one of the guys from the salon. We met Bez. Remember Bez from the Happy Mondays? There's a band called the Happy Mondays. He was the guy with the maracas. He was amazing. Yeah,
I don't know.
He was great. Anyway, so we met Bez. Anyway, so that one didn't go to plan. But that was my first ever American crew shot. So that was some time ago, like 10 years ago or something.
Tell us the story first about how you met the guy from Busted.
The guy from Busted? Oh, no, McFly.
McFly, yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'll tell you that. Oh, that was, yeah.
That's a different story.
But,
I'll
tell you that.
When you said about Bez, so this is where your music, like, was it your music career got you to that stage, and how you got to meet him? Or?
Kind of. Like, I just loved music. I used to just play in bands and do tour around Europe a little bit and stuff like that. We could talk about
your band. What was the name of your band?
Nozzle.
Yeah, baby.
Exactly. Hell yeah. So, look, the band had been going for some years before they were on a record label, and they did,
they'll have to make you your own Dyson attachment.
Oh, how cool would that be?
Call it
Nozzle. Just for me.
It'll be in the shape of a guitar.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Just putting out sound waves. You can't even hear it.
It's in the universe.
It's a different frequency. Cares for air.
It's in the universe now. Right? So it's good.
So yeah, I did that, and they were on a record label. They had albums. They had like songs on movies. All this stuff. I joined the band. We could get into that story in another podcast. That's
yeah.
But that would take a long time.
Yeah.
But no, that wasn't how I started meeting music people. But there was a band that I used to love called Yumi at Six, and they were doing a UK tour. And one of my other mates, you met Callum. Remember my friend Callum? Yeah. So me and Callum, he lived in Southampton at the time, and I was like, I'm going to come up and we should just do a tour. We should just like follow him around a few dates. We went to like Southampton. I think they were one of the guys in the band was from around there, so they had a big fan base. Southampton, London. We went to Cardiff. We just travelled around. And at the London gig, one of the friends that we were staying with was like, oh, where's the gig? Because they weren't coming. We were like, oh, it's at the O2. I think it was Brixton O2 or something like that. And they were like, you're kidding. Why didn't you tell me? I was like, why is that? They were like, well, I know the manager. I know the whole complex manager. I'll see what I can do. And I'm like, you're joking. So we get there, like my ass is making buttons at this point. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. So we get there, and my friend calls the manager, and they were like, come this way. And so there was a massive, we were all queued up, and they were like, come this way. Come out with these 3 gold wristbands. We're like, what are these? All access wristbands. We're like, backstage. They're like, go where you want. I was like, oh my God, this is outrageous. So we go backstage, walk up there. It's famous people galore. Like at this point, there's all my music inspirations were just in this like green room. Yeah. And for all the kids watching at home, there was a band in the UK called McFly.
Yeah, McFly were pretty fly.
And McFly were massive.
Massive, absolutely huge.
They were pretty fly.
Yeah, they were pretty cool, man. Not gonna lie, I was a bit of a fan.
And so we get up there. Who's up there? Dougie Pointer from McFly was there. So naturally, we go up and introduce ourselves, pretend like we're famous, pretend like we're meant to be there. And we're just chatting away to him. We're getting photos and all this. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, sick.
I felt famous awesome. For a minute there.
Yeah, no, I've got a few stories like that too for the next podcast.
All
right,
so
let's keep it moving.
Yeah, so won the Southwest of England Championships, did my American crew shots, and then I got invited back to my college hair show. They, for the first time ever, I thought I might have been the second year, they were putting together a creative team, and they said, "Do you want an invite? Do you want to come back and be on the creative team and do a demonstration at that annual hair show?" So I went back, and again I made this like hat out of hair, and it was blonde and blue. It was like white baby blue, and this whole hair, it just had hair hanging down off it, and it was like a hat. You couldn't see the model underneath it. It was just like sat on her head. It was wicked. So she walked down the catwalk, and the judge of that show, he used to come back. He was one of the really well known judges in hairdressers in our area. He was called Craig Chapman. And he still is a fantastic hairdresser. He's won Afro Stylist of the Year at the British Hairdressing Awards, which is massive. And for like our part of the country, it's crazy. And like he's won like Southwest Area Hairdresser of the Year, kind of like, you know, Victoria, New South Wales, that kind of thing. He's won that at the British Hairdressing Awards, which is huge. He used to come to our hair shows and judge them. So he came to our show and he saw what we were doing, and I got inspired by what L'Oreal and all those big brands were putting out that year. And he goes, "Oh, mate," because he was the same guy that judged the year before and I'd won, and he was like, "Mate, this was awesome." He was like, "People in London are doing this." He was like, you should come up to London with me and do some shoots." This was a week before I was going to Australia. And talk about pivotal moments in your career. That was a pivotal moment for me. And so I'd won, I think the week before that, or that weekend, I'd won the Southwest of England Hairdressing Championships. I then went to this hair show as a creative on the creative team, and this guy saying to me, do you want to come to London and do some hair shoots for L'Oreal? And I was like, oh God, this is crazy, like a week out, you know? Then the offcuts of the images that I did for American Crew, I became a finalist for the NHF UK Photographic Stylist of the Year, which I still don't know if I won because they put out 3 winners and my name was number 1. I'm not sure if I won it. If that means I won, I'm going to take it as a win. Yeah. I'll take it. But we did some funny shots with the afterwards with the black and white stuff. So that was a pivotal moment.
So having to say no.
He come up to me and he went, how do you feel about 2 weeks' time coming to London to do a shoot with L'Oreal? And I just went, I was thinking I was a big head. I was like, oh, nah, I really want to do it. But I was like, nah, I'm going to Australia, And he almost pivoted on the spot and just went, turned away. That was it.
Didn't say nothing.
And my heart just sank. I was like, might have missed the mark there. I might have missed an opportunity. Yeah. But that was a pivotal moment. And I look back on that moment and I don't regret it for 1 minute.
No. Because,
look, hindsight's a beautiful thing. It could have been amazing for my career. It also might not have been.
Yeah.
But all the little things that I had built up until that point in my sort of mental fortitude helped me to go past that point. Mm-hmm. So he was asking me to go do this shoot. I would have been in Australia for a week at this point, And I was like, no, I'm going to Australia. So yeah, a lot of stuff happened in that 1 or 2 weeks leading up to going to Australia. So I left on a bit of a high. I left feeling like I was leaving something behind. Yeah. They were taking on new people to train with the UK hairdressing team. I could have done that because I was like area champion. And I got a phone call at the salon and they were like, oh, we've seen, your guy Leigh won the thing. Those are exactly the people we need. And I think the guys at the shop had clicked on at this point. They were like, well, just depends what you want to do with your career. And then I announced to them, look, I'm going to go to Australia. So I had to put that on the back burner. And yeah, came to Australia.
So went to Adelaide.
Went straight to Adelaide. Took probably a week or 2 off, just enjoyed the sunshine. And then got straight into work.
Yeah, so salon in Adelaide. Started
working in a hairdressing salon. And this was where it blew my mind at the opportunities of this country. I'm walking around with a portfolio, which was a paper book, which I had cut out for printed photos and stuck them in a book, and got a texter and just wrote what it was. That's what I did. I'm walking around with this big scrapbook. This is before Instagram.
Did you have a job before you came
Facebook.
Here or no?
No.
You just walked into a salon.
So
did you walk into the salon with your portfolio?
I walked in with 30 resumes. I had 30 resumes in a Polly Pocket, and I had this paper portfolio book. And I would and I had everything in there, from the first ever photo I had ever taken to all the things that I'd won, to all the classes I'd done, the colour classes, the things I did, and because it was booked. I'll show you it in a bit. I've got it here.
You still have it?
Yeah, I'll show you. You will laugh your head off. Maybe we'll do a little video on it.
That has to be in the BTS.
We'll
put it.
We'll put it in there. I'll show you it. But it's hilarious. So I would walk around with that, and I think I got about 15 resumes handed out. CV, we used to call them. I used to call them CVs.
Yeah.
What do they call them? Resumes here, whatever.
Curriculum vitae.
So I would go around, and I walked in. It was a hair house warehouse. Okay. You know those?
Yeah.
So I walked into that one.
All too well.
Yeah.
I know them. Yeah.
Walked in, went around the city a little bit, and then I was walking back past the shop, and the lady who was managing in there legged it out of the shop and went, oh, Leigh, shout me down. Let's talk about the application. Look, your CV looks great, this, that, and the other. I'm showing her this paper book of what I could do and stuff, because originally they were just going to call me. And she was like, when can you start? Basically just had hiring me on the spot. And I was like, well, I've got my scissors at my car. And I just went down and did a haircut, and they were like, wow. That was great. I think it was a men's haircut at the time, and I was quite good at cutting men's hair at the time, and they were like, okay. And they had a guy who was leaving at the time, and so I could have filled the spot great. He was a good hairdresser. I remember seeing his work. He was a good hairdresser, and I was a little bit nervous about doing the hairdressing work that he was doing, but anyway, I didn't care. I could make up for it with other parts of my skill set. And this is the crazy thing. They were like, bearing in mind I'd come from the UK where you're barely making £250 a week. I'm fully qualified out of my apprenticeship, running a column. I might have been on like £230 a week or something. Like, it was not a lot of money. And so they go, oh, how's $30 an hour? Is that okay? I was like, that's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Just
like,
take it.
I'm going to take
absolutely.
it. And they were like, look, it's casual, but you'll probably be on full-time hours because, we've got so much work on. So I'm working full-time hours, making $30 an hour. It was outrageous. I couldn't believe it. I remember calling home to my mum and dad being like, I'm making this much money. They're like, you jammy git. Like, it's taken me my whole life to make that much money, Like,
it just doesn't happen.
I'm like a 20-year-old.
It doesn't happen at home.
No, I'm a 20-year-old kid, because the thing in the UK, nobody wants to give you anything. Most people are making peanuts as it is.
Yeah.
Minimum wage is so low, and you've got to prove yourself so much.
Yeah.
Like, you always got to prove yourself in the UK.
Absolutely. And even like, that's one of the things that really blew my mind coming here first was the price of haircuts.
Yep.
Like, if you're to compare just the numbers, obviously the currency exchange makes a difference, right? But even at that, it's still double the price.
Yeah.
Even if you just split the currency, like, say if you take 25 euro for a haircut is expensive where I'm from.
Yep.
People won't pay it.
No. Well, what did you charge?
In Ireland?
Yeah.
Anywhere between like 10 and 20.
Wow.
Depending on service.
Yeah. So I remember the full service shampoo cut.
It's like $25, like.
Yeah. Shampoo, cut and dry in my salon that I trained in was £13.50. So what's that? $26, $27.
Crazy.
And that's like top level.
Yeah.
That's like some of the best you can get.
And like, I think there's such limiting beliefs
in
the UK and in Ireland of putting their prices up to that level. Except if you're in London or you're in Dublin or you're in some of the big cities, people just won't pay it. It's just where you're located. It's just a location based thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the things that really blew my mind coming here too, and how, again, just seeing the opportunities, right? Like, what's available.
I was in that salon, and because I'd never experienced this, again, it was the fear of putting prices up. I'd been in there about 3-4 weeks, and I was doing like really good haircuts, and the men's haircut price in there was like $30 or something. And after 4 weeks, they were like, yours is going straight up to 35. Like, they were just like, smacking another $5 on there because it's worth the value. And I was like, can you do that? Like, because in the UK, you'd be afraid to put it up 50 pence because people would freak out.
People go crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So put it up to a whole $5 was mental.
So you were in Adelaide then for how long?
A few months.
Only a few months?
Yeah, a few months.
Did you travel after that? You went somewhere else?
Then came to Victoria, did my farm work.
Oh yeah.
I did some dairy work, so I worked on a dairy farm, which at the time was hilarious. I've still got some videos of me. I had a camper van when I came to Australia, and I'm driving to this farm. I'm in the middle of nowhere. We're out in the Otways, just no idea where we are. And this is how closed off and dumb I was to the world. I thought you still milked cows by hand. So I'm driving there. My mate's filming me. This is on a little shitty like Samsung phone or whatever. We're driving there, and I'm going. He's like, "How do you feel about this?" And I'm like, "I am not touching a cow's udder. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it, I hate this. I don't even want to do this. I'm just like driving towards it. And he's pissing himself, like filming me.
He thought it was like the open farms where they bring little kids to milk the cow.
I like to dress up like a maid and get a little bucket. But it wasn't like that. It was, so we get there and we meet the farmer, and he's a bit brash, hey, you can't, blah, 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 proper Aussie farmer. Like, he'd been on the farm like 40 years or something, never left, in the middle of the Otways. Like, and then we were like, whoa. And so he goes, all right, lads, put your bags down. First things first, take you down to the dairy. So he took I was like, oh no.
Here we go.
I thought this is it. I'm just going to be touching udders straight away. I'm
about to start milking udders.
So, and then he showed me in, and I'm like, what are those things? And of course, they're like these electronic cups that it's all on a machine. And you just smack them on. And I was like, oh, thank God for that. So straight away, that like eased it. So anyway, that's enough of that story. What a fantastic experience, though. The first couple of weeks, I absolutely hated it. By the end of it, I ended up loving it because it changed me as a human, changed me as a man, changed me as a person. Like, I grew so much there. Their son at the time was like 15. This kid was unbelievable, jumping on a quad bike, jumping on a motorbike, jumping in a tractor, getting herds of 200 cows from one paddock to another. I was like so shit scared of this stuff because I come from a city. I'm a hairdresser from a city. Never done this stuff in my life. This kid was fearless.
Yeah.
He knew how to do all this stuff, operate machinery, blah, but I'm like, this is what I missed out on growing up.
Yeah.
And then you're looking out for snakes, you're looking out for lizards, you're looking out for this, that, the other, We'd be like chasing cows around paddocks, trying to get them back in. It was mental. It changed me as a human, and I'm forever grateful for that experience.
Yeah.
I was glad when I left, but
yeah.
I look back on it now and I changed, astronomically in that sort of 4 month process. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mad. I've never had to do my farm work, thank God.
Yeah.
But people might not know this about me, but my mum's family are actually farmers.
Oh wow.
Dairy farmers.
Yeah, great.
So I kind of grew up somewhat around the farm. So I know, that you don't milk. I know you don't milk cows by hand.
Yeah. I see. I didn't know that.
But my uncle would always try to encourage me to come and help him on the farm, and I would when I was younger. And then I don't know. It just didn't suit me. My mom's a hairdresser, yeah, but like it probably was the same for her. She didn't enjoy the farm. She didn't want to help out in the farm work and stuff.
A lot of people
it's hard getting your hands dirty like that when you're a hairdresser.
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't even like getting my
product
shit
on your
dirty
hands.
at the moment.
A lot of people assume I'm a farmer because being from the southwest.
Yeah, they do actually.
They do.
No, I've heard people
like,
say that.
You're a farmer. I'm like,
I've heard
are you
people say
kidding?
that to you.
Are you joking?
Jordan has definitely said that.
Yeah,
to you a few
Mikey
times.
said it too.
I'm
a farmer.
You're a farmer, Leigh.
I'm not. No, I wouldn't know the first thing about it.
No. So after the farm work, you went.
So after the farm work,
stay in Victoria, or you go somewhere else?
No, I went to Queensland actually.
Queensland.
Went to Queensland. Amazing.
Yeah.
That was where I really thought, because coming to Australia, I thought it was just going to be sun and surf everywhere, and spending a winter in Victoria proved that wasn't what it was about. So we went and found it in Queensland. Amazing, absolutely amazing. We drove the whole coast from Victoria all the way up to Queensland. Just had the best time surfing at all the cool spots, stopping off here, there, and everywhere. Like it was awesome.
Yeah. I'm kind of jealous of that, man. To be honest, I haven't had that experience yet.
You got time. You can
I'm working towards it. I'm working towards it.
You gotta have those goals. Like as I always say, keep it on the list. The moment that you take that off your list of things, it becomes unreachable.
Yeah.
So always keep it there in the back of your mind. But so we did that, and then had a really great time in Queensland. Spent a lot of money, partied a bit too much, and started to run out of money. So we came back to Victoria with the thought of going to the farm again, because it was at the time
it's good money.
You could save money if you worked.
You're not spending money, you're making money.
If you worked 7 hours a day, you could just they put you up and they fed you.
Yeah.
So you could stay there. We got on with the family great. They looked after us. But anyway, so we couldn't go back there right away. We had to wait 2 weeks. Okay. And so I was like, do I just try and get a hairdressing job in a regional town near where they were? And I did that. And again, similar thing to Adelaide. I walked up and down the strip. I had a Polly pocket full of resumes and CVs. And I went into every hairdresser. When I was in Queensland, I Googled all the salons around the area. And I found about 15 salons. Bearing in mind, this is a regional town. 15 salons. I found them all. It was a hot day. I'm dressed up in like a suit. I've got a shirt and good pants on and shoes on. And I'm walking around, handing in all these CVs. And again, similar thing. I was walking back down the street, and then the boss come running out the door. Oh, Leigh, I've had a look over your resume. When can you start? Do you want to do a haircut? We've got someone just walked in. Do you want to do a haircut? I'm like, yep, got my scissors in my car. So again, this is like proactiveness.
It's so much character building within all of this, because
huge.
Like I'm just thinking and smiling away, watching and listening to the story, because there's certain intricate details that I don't even know, right?
Yeah.
But I can relate to my story.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you're here and you're, what age at the time were you at that time? 20, yeah.
I'm either 20. At this point, I'm either 20 or 21. Yeah.
You've got nobody to look after you.
No.
You don't have like a safety blanket to fall back on. It's all character building times.
Yeah.
So you're problem solving there, essentially. You're like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? You don't want to be ringing home and asking for money.
Nope. And you know the amazing thing, like, I'm not blowing smoke up my own ass here, but not once have I ever phoned home for money, ever. In the whole, I've been here 10.5 years. Yeah. My mum and dad gave me no money to get myself here, and they've given me no money since.
Thank you to Hair for that.
Thanks to my
hair industry and your
personality and this industry.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, we can go into that in other episodes as well, but you can really make this career work if you want to.
Yeah. Endless opportunities.
But
you never go hungry, will you?
No.
You'll always be able to do a bit of a trim.
So yeah, but I was walking up and down the street, and then they ran out and said, "Oh, when can you start? When can you do a haircut?" I did a haircut, and it was this time it wasn't a men's haircut; it was a woman's haircut, and I was pretty confident at short women's hair. Like I loved it at the time, and it was the boss's sister, and I didn't know at the time, and yeah, that's the true test. You know, you're cutting the boss's sister's hair. It's like the true test. And she wanted a short, like Halle Berry haircut. Remember when Halle Berry had a nice short haircut?
Yeah.
Beautiful haircut. And I was like, I'm going to nail this. Brought out all the tricks. And they were like, okay, this is something different. Yeah. And yeah, that was it. Secured the spot.
Secured the bag.
Secured the bag.
How much an hour? $30 an hour that time as well, or what?
I think I started casual at that. Yeah. Again, it just kept blowing my mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys don't know me from a bar of soap.
Yeah.
This paper portfolio here and this resume could be a load of shit. I could just be straight up lying to you.
Absolutely.
Because there was no Instagram.
Absolutely.
There was no Instagram. There was no Facebook. There was nothing. I could just be straight up lying.
The work does the talking for you, right? Like we say that all the time now. Let the work do the talking.
Start spinning them scissors around, flipping your comb. You buy anybody.
That's it.
That's all it is. It's all smoke and mirrors. Nah, it's
not.
But
did you stay in Victoria then after that?
Yeah. So that sealed me into Victoria. So I stayed at that salon and did. That's where I got sponsored. And so we were coming up. Me and my friend Ben, who I come to Australia with, we were coming up to the end of our working holiday. So we had a 2-year working holiday visa. That's why we had to do the farm work to qualify for the second year.
Yeah.
So we qualified for the second year. We were coming up to the end of it because we'd been up to Queensland and doing all that. And we were like, look, what are we going to do? We weren't ready to go home. And we made a little network here. We knew a handful of people. And we were like, oh, look, we're safe here. We're happy here. We've got people to fall back on here. Let's start the visa process. Yeah. And we thought, we're 20, 21-year-old kids, we're like, what's 2 years on a visa? Nothing. Yeah. We're 23, 24 by the time we're done, permanent residents of Australia. Anyway, that took a lot longer than expected.
Yeah. About 10 years?
No, it was more like 7 years in the trenches getting visas, and I had a whole rigmarole around that. But
crazy, isn't it?
we eventually got there anyway. We got there.
So you're a citizen now? No?
The details. Yeah, I'm a citizen now. Yeah, so fully fledged Australian citizen.
Wave
True
the
blue.
Flag.
True
Wave
blue.
the flag. Wave that flag, baby.
I drink VB on a daily basis now. So
for mental stimulation.
Just mental stimulation. Yeah, I didn't tell you about the
mushrooms into it.
Yeah, I did tell you about the stubbies I had before this. We'll leave that one out. No, I'm joking.
All right. So from there,
got that. So, but again, there's a pivotal.
I feel like I've said that for so long now.
Yeah.
So from there, where
we keep going off. But this is the whole point of the podcast, right? We can elaborate. Hopefully, you get some value out of it. If you don't, I'm having a good time. So
absolutely no. There's always lessons within each part.
I think if we get all of our story out as well, we don't have to touch on it too much in other podcasts. It gets boring about keep coming back to it.
Yeah, we don't have to.
But look, this is great. So, talking about pivotal moments, I love getting back to the pivotal moments because it's like photographs in my mind. I can visualize these pivotal moments. I had to go and work in different salon because of visa requirements. So how you couldn't. There's like these things you can't do 6 months on the same salon. All this stuff on your working holiday. So I had to go and work at a different salon, and this was the guy that actually told me. See, this was weird, this experience, but he was the guy that told me that I had good hands. He saw me and he's like, I already know you got great hands. So I can tell, and I was like, oh, great. But so I had to move to that salon, and they're a really good salon in here, like fantastic salon. They get this right. This is how like obnoxious these people were. We do staff training days, and they would write on a whiteboard, "We are the best salon in the area." That's what they would write. You'd go to the training day and they would go, "Remember, we are the best." You'd be like,
I guess it works, right? Like
okay, but maybe that's subliminal messaging, yeah. And solidifying that in your mind. But if you met them, you'd be like, whoa, that's it's not doing you too many favors. But
bit bold of a statement, was it?
Yeah, it was bold. But look, they were great. But
I guess it's a way of trying to keep standards high.
Yeah, it wasn't great for the humility on their personalities. If you met these guys, they're a bit like obnoxious. But anyway, that was cool. That was the point. So there was a photographic moment in my mind, again, another pivotal moment, which lights the fire under my ass. So one of the first ones was back in the UK. That moment with Craig Chapman about, do you want to come for L'Oreal? Boom! I thought, oh no, what have I done? That just lit the fire under my ass. I know I have to make this work for myself because I just missed an opportunity. Next one was this next experience. So I left that salon after I sorted out my visa stuff. I could go back to the other salon, in the interim. They actually called me and they said, Leigh, we feel terrible about you leaving. We think you could be like a paramount, part of the team. We want you back. Do you want to come and meet for a coffee? So I met them for a coffee. They bought me lunch, this. And then the energy was good. They were like, building me up. And then they said, two things they said. They said, there's just a couple of things. They were like, we feel like, we feel like the rule and the reasons why you're doing this. English people are a bit lazy, aren't they? And I didn't really know what, I think they were trying to be like, okay, well, you can change that for me, can you? To maybe get me to go back. And then the other one was, then the conversation was going, and then he said, you'll never make it in the salon that you're at, in the regional salon. He went, you'll never make it down there. Who does? They all end up coming to us in the end anyway. And I just went, watch me. That's all I needed to hear. Because I was on the fence. I was gonna go and join the salon again because they were like the best salon in the area. We're the best. It's on the whiteboard. Yeah. And he said, you'll never make it down there. And I just thought, that lit the fire under my ass. I was like, don't ever say that to me, because I am so competitive. Don't ever tell me I won't do it, because I'll do everything in my power to do it. Do I like that about myself? Yes and no. Sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's my curse. But that's the wrong thing to say to me. Yeah, because I'll do everything in my power to do it.
I love it. I love when people say it.
I love that.
It's like the American crew thing, at the end of the video. I was like, I love it.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm not gonna do it, or whatever it is.
So they said that to me, and that was probably one of the the worst things they could have said to me. Another story about that guy, actually. Remember when we were at Hair Festival the first time, and I was coming up, and I met you for the second time. I think it was the first time we made a proper connection.
At Hair Expo?
At Hair Expo, sorry.
Yeah.
I met that guy. That guy saw me at the airport because he was going up as well. And he saw me, we locked eyes, and he looked away. Because I think I was going in with all kinds of confidence. Like, I had my model there. Her hair was coloured because I got through to the finals of the cut and colour competition. And there was an energy about me that day. I was probably a little bit big-headed, but I was just coming in with all this confidence, and I think he could just sense it from across the friggin' airport, in the lobby area. He just looked at me, we locked eyes, and I was like, you know what this is.
Yeah,
you know exactly. I was like, you know exactly what this is, because it probably been about 2-3 years that I'd seen him at this point, and I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, there was an energy, you could almost feel it burning through him. I was like, you know what this is. Yeah. But anyway,
you almost need that though. I love it when somebody puts me in a position like that. I kind of low key love it. There's a part of you that kind of lights the fire, but some of the fire is it's like an animosity, but a drive.
It's a drive more than a hate
almost
thing.
I'll show you. Yeah. But then Hannah keeps saying to me these days, why is that? Why do you need to show this person? And it's not really about that person. It's more about you. You need to show you.
Yep.
That you can prove them wrong.
Because ultimately, I don't know what you're like. I am my worst critic.
Yeah. 100%.
Trust me. I heard Steven say it on a podcast. He's like, trust me, I've said way worse things about myself than you could ever say to me. Mm-hmm. It's true. That sounds dark, but it's not. It's not in a depressive way. It's you wanna. But do you want to say that shit to me? I've said way worse things to myself.
Constructive criticism on yourself.
Yeah.
As
I am
long as
my
it's
worst critic.
Yeah. You still, but you are your worst critic because ultimately, it sounds weird even saying it, but you love yourself, so you want to.
Yeah.
project the best version of yourself possible.
And getting back to why I am the way I am in social situations, why do I need to be the best version of myself? How do I expect to help anybody? I hate subpar advice. I hate subpar mentorship. I hate subpar anything, guidance in life. It's like the whole self-help movement. There's so much subpar self-help. The blind leading the blind. I hate that. So I'm going to do the best to be the best I can possibly be.
Yeah. Before I
even can
door.
help people.
Yeah,
and that explains the whole distance of my career. That's why I now feel like I'm finally in a place where I can share my knowledge, because I feel like it's worth sharing now.
Yeah.
You know, and that gets back to the story. But let's get back to that. So I'm in the regional salon in Victoria. I'm getting sponsored. I'm doing all that stuff. There was a point, I'm not going to lie, where I've been cutting hair for quite a while, and I've been in this salon for about 2-3 years, and I was starting to lose the drive for hairdressing. I think because I had no timelines, no end dates, nothing to work towards. Or the only thing I was really waiting for was a visa, but that was just taking forever. I was cutting, you know, middle-aged women's hair, which, don't get me wrong, that has been an amazing learning curve in itself, and I learned so much from working in a salon doing that, cutting, you know, that kind of hair type. And there was a little bit of me. This is where, again, I keep thinking of these pivotal moments, like back to what my dad would always say to me. This is where, you know, one of the bad things about being away from your parents is, like, there's some really good advice that they give. My dad was great at giving black or white advice. It was like when I started to do hair, something I forgot to say, he would say, okay, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to university and owe money, or do you want to go to work and earn money? And so that was like, okay, I need to go and get a job to earn money. So that was the kind of, he would give me like 2 avenues, right? I do that to myself now. I'm like, well, do you want to do this, or do you want to do this? You know? And there's been a few points where I remember when, at the time when we first met, I was just coming out of that point where I was thinking about quitting doing hair. So what happened was, this is a great story about when we first met, but in the salon in Victoria, regional Victoria, I was coming to the end of my tether. I was like, oh, I actually don't know if I want to do this. And I couldn't really see a way out of it. But again, I gave myself that black or white advice. I was like, right, yep, you could quit, and you could be the guy that quits. You don't really have anything else to do. You probably have to go home, because, you know, what are you going to do? Or are you going to get that fire back under your ass and relight yourself and remember what that guy said to you? You're never going to make it. You're never going to make it. And I was like, I'm going to show you. So I remembered back to what lit the fire in the first place. I'm a competitive person. Let's get back to hair competitions. Because I hadn't done a competition at this point since leaving the UK. The last thing I did, I won the South West of England Championships. I was like, right, well, I've got all this confidence. I know that I'm good enough. Let's go do it. So I think one of the reasons why I didn't do comps either is because I didn't know where to look. I was in Australia. I was like, all these organizations, I don't know what I'm looking at, you know? And no one around me was doing them. They were thrown around, maybe you should go HBA, maybe you should do this, but nobody really knew, you know? So it's hard to find. It's hard to find where they are and when they're on.
Exactly. The information is hard to kind of gauge, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and this, it was really hard at this point, because Instagram had really only just started kicking off, you know, 2015, 2016, 17, like I was following hairdressers, but nobody was really doing much. And then it might have been, I probably just found someone's cool haircut and been like, oh, what's that? And it was like a competition haircut. And I'm like, oh, HBA, cool. Oh, Hair Expo, cool. I was like, right, I'm just going to see if the Hair Expo's got a hair competition. And luckily enough, they did. They had the pop-up Hair Expo. The pop-up Hair Expo. Was it at the Beauty Hair Expo? Something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was at the Beauty. And so, it was the Hair and Beauty Expo in Melbourne, but there was a corner.
And there was a pop-up hair corner. And HBIA were holding the hair competition. And I was like, right, I'm going to do what I always do, and I'm just going to enter all of the categories that I think I could go in. And so just turning up, it was amazing. I should have known, like, just the energy of the day. I knew I was where I needed to be. I just walked in. I'm like, this is it. Like, this is where I need to be. I walk in. They show you to the little bit, the backstage bit. Where, this is where you can get ready. Who's in there? Kobe Bakshish, like, with all of his models. Like, he's got half of the room. I've just got the other half. I've got like 1 or 2 models. He's like prepping all this. I'm like, this is where I need to be. I'm home, you know, and this is where I need to be.
I'm back.
And so I'm back, you know, and
I'm back to where I was in the UK when I left.
It started to brew, and then that fired me up, and I went into. So I entered the women's cut and color, or the female cut and color competition. Won first place. Absolutely nailed it. Like, I just let all the shit come out of my head, all the ideas come out of the box, and I was like, I'm going in hard, you know. I remembered all the stuff that I used to do at comps in the UK, smashed it, won it. Come to the men's competition, didn't smash it and didn't win it. Why? Because little did I know, there was a salon in Melbourne called Area Studio, and I had never even heard of these guys at this point. I didn't even know who you guys were, because again, that was how like closed off everything was. Instagram wasn't popping. And then I entered my men's comp, and you know, I was trying to do all the men's spire lines and do the taper and the faded out back, and I think about 3 or 4 of us did the same haircut, but some people just did it better than others.
100%.
And there's a crazy story about that. We went to this competition, and I used to make YouTube videos back in the day. I used to make like vlogs, you know, try to be like this, you know, hair vlogger. And in the videos, I looked back, and so I don't know if anyone's ever seen or been to a hair comp before, but you get these square tables and you get these A frame mirrors, and you just get 2 people per table. And on the other side of the table was this guy.
Me and Leigh shared.
Owen McCarthy.
Me and Leigh shared a table.
We shared the table, and this was like weird.
You were full Alpha Elite then too, weren't you?
I had an Alpha Elite t-shirt on.
I remember.
I think I was wearing that one earlier. That's the same one.
Yeah.
That's my loungewear now. That's become a loungewear.
I was like, who's the fitty? Like, who's the fitness freak sharing the table with me? You know.
But now look at me now.
I know.
You know, look at. I mean, look. Just all the cool gear on. And no, I actually couldn't care less about that. But I've got to fit in, you know. When I'm around you, when I'm around Jordan, and I've got to fit in, you know.
No, of course.
I have to.
Of course. But yeah, look, that's a random story.
I actually don't care. But that's
really cool.
that's
it's cool
little,
to think about that now. It's
little synchronicities that, and there's been a lot of those since that moment. There's been a lot of them synchronicities gone on, which is too scary.
I don't think we even spoke on that day, to be honest. I don't think we interacted at all.
I think we just was like a bit of a.
It was kind of just like a
bit of a tip of the hat, like
like getting on.
All right, mate. And I actually think, was your mum there for that?
My mum was there.
I remember that. I remember looking like, do you know? I actually thought like, who brings their mum to a hair comp? I thought, look at this, that's cute.
I know. She was over. It's a good excuse,
but
right?
no, looking back on it now, dude, there's nothing.
She was visiting from.
There's nothing I would want more than to have my parents there seeing me do a haircut. I would love that now. Like,
yeah, it's funny as fuck.
But I did think that.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
It's so funny.
And I see, you know, I look over at your cut, and I'm like, yeah, you know. I'm kind of holding my own, and then I look over at Jordan's done this crazy like arrow thing in the back of someone's head, and Danny's doing some crazy stuff. I think Yellow was there at that comp as well.
He was there, yeah.
I think because he's in some of the pictures and the videos. I don't know if he
caught, but he was there.
He's definitely there. And I seen you guys.
Was there too.
I think I'd recognize Danny from like some stuff online, and you know, he's an intimidating guy. I know he's quiet, but he's like intimidating in real life. You know, when you don't know him.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him. I'm like, oh, it's that guy. You know, and then
Danny was our Ronaldo.
Yeah. He'd be like,
he was
you go out. You go speak.
Yeah. He was the road captain.
So that started there, and so I won that thing, and then you got put on to the hair expo, the actual big international hair expo, which was in Sydney. You qualified for the finals, which I did, and I went to that. But a funny story about Jordan, he's gonna love. I've told him this before, but the first ever time I remember seeing Jordan, so we were all, I seen him cut the hair obviously, but he was quite far away from me, so I didn't really like know much about him. And so we were all waiting for the results, and like you guys weren't around, like none of you area boys were around, like you, Jordan, Danny, you were not there. And I'm like, oh, maybe they've already know, or maybe they just think they've not won. And then they call out all the winners, this won this. And it was just me stood up, like packing up my gear. Everybody's left and packing up my gear, and you guys come back, and Jordan's like, he's got his hat down over his eyes, like, oh, how did we do? And the lady's like, oh, you came second, you gone through to the final. And he went, oh shit. And I'm like, who are these guys? This guy's brought his mum. this guy's just saying, oh shit, and he's got his hat over his face. Like, what is going on here?
I know. And I remember, I actually remember taking, like, after, when we came back, I remember finishing off my haircut. I changed my model's hair. Because I had like all these like lines put in it and stuff too, so I just faded it out. But
it was hilarious. So that was how I met you guys, and then so that lit the fire for me again. I was like, wow, this is great. And then so we went to Hair Expo Sydney. A lot of stuff happened going to that. I actually was going to enter the women's hair, the cut and color finals. That's what I was in, and I have a feeling like I would have won that one too. But everybody pulled out. It was just me. So they put me into the bob category. Open bob. I didn't have a bob haircut prepared.
Wow.
So
they should have just given you the trophy. That would have been enough.
There you go. So they were like, look, I was like, well, I'm coming up. I still want to compete. And they were like, well, if you want to do that, you're going to have to go into the bob category because that's the only one we've got people in. So yeah, I was runner up. I came second. It was a great haircut, but yeah, I came second. So I wasn't mad with that, but it was all the other things that happened that day.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Crazy time, wasn't it? We often like look. Obviously, this is why we can't get into the story in the introduction of the workshops because we'd be there forever.
Yeah.
But
this is why it's great to just put this down.
It's great
now.
to put it on. It's amazing to be able to get into the depths and the intricacies of like what's got us to where we are now because we never get the opportunity to.
No.
You know, when have you probably told this story?
Rarely. Ever? I mean, in the timeline that it's in, never. Like, no. I don't think anyone's ever heard this all the way through.
No, so like we often speak in the classes about how Hair Expo 2017 was our kind of turning point. It was like a pivotal moment in both of our careers. Another big
for
moment.
Me. I mean,
it was the most inspiring.
I am so glad, but that decision, see, it goes all the way back to that guy telling me I would never make it in a regional town. You know, don't tell me that.
Yeah. Because
now, you know, I would never have done that. I might not have done that first hair comp, and then I might not have met you guys at Hair Expo, and then it might none of this would have happened.
We wouldn't be here today. It's like,
I mean, obviously there's an element of luck in that, but it's a weird coincidence that
it's like the butterfly effect.
Different people are in the same place at the same time.
The butterfly effect.
Yeah, and the butterfly effect, and then just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And the weird synchronicities that had to happen for all this to happen. So, yeah, fast forward, get to Hair Expo in Sydney. I was modelling for Menspire, I think. Yeah, Menspire cut my hair. Involved in their shows and stuff.
I thought you were just their videographer, like for
yeah, because I was vlogging.
I was like, who's the guy videoing Menspire going around?
I could hear him saying it. I was like, don't pretend you don't know who it is. You know,
it's only the southwest of England regional champion.
Yeah, you know who it is. Everybody does.
Everyone knows these days.
Nah. It's a different story now. No, joking. But so. Yeah, so you were backstage, and I remember we were all just there, weren't we? And we were waiting to go. We were planning the show, and I saw Josh and Charlie. They were like friendly with you guys, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
So the year before, Josh and Charlie did their Australian workshop in the area studio. So when we met them, it was the year later. I had done the Menspire course in Ireland. And Josh had put me in touch with Area Studio, and that's why we were there with them at that time. We were just kind of,
because I was on a bit of a crusade that time. I really wanted to just go to everything that I could, and I saw that Menspire was going to your salon, but I didn't know who Area was. You know, I was just like, oh, Area Studio. You know, that's why I didn't know who you guys were.
Yeah,
and then I saw that. Remember Julius was there as well.
Yeah, Julius.
And I really wanted to go to that. It was like a Tuesday night or something. I couldn't go because I was working.
Diego
yeah, exactly. And I missed both of those things. I was devastated. So then when I saw you guys there together, I'm like, oh, this is cool. We're all like linked. We're linked here, you know.
Yeah, that's when it kind of.
But you know, for you, like if it wasn't for you though, again, this is, I think we're different in this scenario. This is where one of our differences is, like, you are a bit more personable than I am. You will strike a conversation. I think you probably find it easier than me to strike a conversation. I just might be a bit too critical in the way that I open it.
Yeah,
maybe that's a confidence thing too. I don't really know, but like
when our workshops start and like people come in, I'm like, I'm the one who.
Yeah, but I'm learning that from you, and I know that that's a key skill that I'm getting better at every single time.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious about it now. I always think about, not in a fake way, I just think about how I'm going to be in that initial interaction, you know, because first impressions do count, you know, especially in those, not when it comes to like aesthetic and things like that. I mean, those
they're hard to change.
Yeah, when it comes to connection, those, you know, welcoming connections when it comes to interaction it can be paramount, and you did that to me. So I remember backstage, you were there, you were like, I was like, we were like, oh, you're the guy for the competition, like, yeah, and then, you know, we just started chatting a little bit. Oh, how you going? I was been busy, blah blah blah, you know, a little bit of small talk. And then I went off and did my comp, and then we didn't see each other again until later that.
We saw each other at the dinner, maybe.
Yeah, and then later. We were at the
dinner, like the awards.
Later on at the awards night. So the way to find out if you'd won your competition is you had to go to the awards. Was it the Hair Expo gala? You know, it's the first time I'd been going to one of these galas, and I think Jordan and Danny were in the final, the barbering final, and so you guys. Like circle tables like this, you were on the table over from me, and this is this is how personable Owen is. Owen looks over. I just went on my own because nobody wanted to go, and I just went on my own. I was like, well, I want to find out if I've won, so I kind of got to go to this thing. And Owen was like, I think you were a bit pissed at the time already, you know. You're oh, hey mate, are you on your own? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, the people were starting to join the table. You were like, you can't sit on your own. Come and join us. And I was like, freaking out. I'm like, oh my god.
No, I'm alright here actually.
I've had enough like interact. You know, I've met. You know, I'm meeting my heroes like all this whole weekend. I'm like a bit overwhelmed with like all the connections that I'm making. You know, and then I was like, well, look, I'm out here doing this pretty much on my own. Like, you know, putting myself out there doing that. And anyway, so yeah, we ended up, that was a connection, and then that was cool. And then I think I started getting my haircut from you, didn't I?
Yeah, the next step was you started coming to the shop.
Yeah,
to get your haircut.
We were chatting online.
We kept contact after that. Then you come to the shop, get your haircut here and there, and then we were hiring, and we were looking for somebody, which is always difficult because we, you know, especially like early days, it was even more difficult than it is now. It's still difficult now. Yeah, but like, yeah, the boys were like, "Who are we gonna hire?" And I was like, "We have to get Leigh." Yeah. And that was it. Like, I think maybe did you contact anybody, or did like I contact you maybe?
So yeah, so that's a really interesting one as well. That was like again another pivotal moment. It was black or white advice for myself. So I remember coming to you to get a haircut. That was my first ever good fade, actually. I remember I've been to a few people before, and they just wrecked it up, and I seen the ones you were doing, and I'm like, all right, this guy.
We gotta post that photo.
That's iconic.
Maybe
that's an
post
iconic
that photo with the we can put it like in the
definitely
maybe we can make it pop up on the screen here.
Yeah, just here.
Yeah. That's the photo. That's the one.
So I came to you for haircuts, and we were chatting because there was more competitions coming up, wasn't there? We were going to like Barber Connect. We were doing all this stuff. Right. You know, remember?
We kept linking up at different
events.
And
then we kept linking up.
I think it was Barber Connect when I was seeing your haircuts at Barber Connect, like the sister trim you did on your mate.
Yeah.
I was like, fire.
Yeah.
I was like, we have to get Leigh.
Because I just knew like nobody.
And Danny was the same. Danny at the time was looking at your stuff and being like, this is the guy. Like,
but I was doing the same to you. Like I knew my scissor work. I'd been doing it for what. God knows how many years by that point, 9 years at that point. I was like, well, I know I can do it. Like, these trims are not really that hard for me, you know?
Yeah.
And I knew that I'd bring that, but then I'd see you guys doing fades. I think Danny did some like backwards fade thing, and I'm like, how did you get that so clean? I just didn't really know. And then I looked over at you, and you got all the gear, and you got like the Supra and this. I'm like, this is not good for me. Like, this is just, you know, you can tell, you could just tell.
Yeah.
You know, you could just tell. I looked around everybody else in the room. I wasn't worried. You know, I'm like, not really worried. You know, there were a couple of errors on my part. I was just trying to do too much in the time that I had. But even then, did you see the fade that I did a reverse fade then?
Yeah.
Like, ridiculous.
Yeah, when
I didn't even know how to do them. I'm like,
when you look at
just
trends,
gonna do it.
Like, that's a really funny thing. It's like when you look at trends.
Yeah.
Like for us, when I look back at the competition work that we've done over the years, everything has been ahead of what we see online.
Yeah.
To a degree, like the mullets, we were doing them years ago.
Yep.
the reverse fades, the lines, all that kind of stuff. We've done it all.
We've just been doing it all.
For a long time. And it's just, that's the only time we get to really express ourselves properly, is when you had the freedom to do it at the comps.
But that's why all that stuff comes out. People wonder where it comes from. For me, I've learned that my best stuff comes out when I just fully let go.
Yeah, under
There's
pressure.
no client, nobody says anything, because all the doors in my mind just stay open.
Yeah.
The moment somebody starts putting their 2 cents on it, I could just feel door 1 closes, boom, 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 until eventually they're all closed, and I'm like, I'm just blocked. I've got that creative block, you know. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, we kept meeting up comps, met at Barber Connect, and then I think it was after that you mentioned I come and got another haircut, and you were like, have you ever thought about like coming to work here? And I outright just pretty much said no, because I was like, oh, I would love to, but I just said no because I knew my commitments to the other salon. You know, I was working full time. Like, I didn't know how was I going to fit in more work.
That was the seed planted, wasn't it?
Yeah, you planted the seed, and I remember chatting to you about your hours, and you do 4 days full time in the salon, get 3 days off, and all this stuff. And I came home, and I always used to say to Steph, if there was anywhere I would work, that's the only place I would work. Yeah, it was. You guys were it was just futuristic. You know, you were doing the haircuts that nobody else was doing. Let's be honest, nobody was doing that in Australia, to the kind of style that you were doing it. It was forward thinking. The aesthetic was unbelievable. You know, Area Studio, the original like aesthetic of the shop and the branding and everything. It was unbelievable. It was clean. It was, you know, it was great. I loved it. Mm-hmm. And I just said, I always used to say to Steph, when I come home from a haircut, I was like, that's the only place I would work. Yeah. And then again, synchronicities or something went out into the universe, and you said, would you ever think about working here? And I just said no. I came home, and Steph, I said to her, I was like, you never guess what happened today. I was like, and brought it up in conversation about me working at the shop, and she just went, what are you gonna do? I was like, I just said no, and she was like, you can't turn this down. Like, she was like, you've got to find a way to do this. And then I was like, and I was like, I just don't know. And then I thought, wait a second, they work 4 days. Maybe if I condense my salon work into 4, do what you do 4 10-hour days, and then drive up to the city on. You
just did 1 day a week at the beginning, was it?
I did 2.
2 days?
Yeah. So I used to do 4 days. I used to do my full-time hours of 4 days in the salon, and then I would drive to the city. I'd drive an hour to the city.
Leigh's psycho.
And then I would work.
When it comes to work,
I would work another 11. Yeah, I'd work 11 hours on a Friday, and then I'd do a full day on a Saturday and just take Sundays off. And then until the point where I could transition fully, and then I'd started to transition over the years. So I did that for years, you know, and I'd support you at, you know, all your hair shows that you would do. I loved that though. I never ever hated that. You know, so again, some people, that's like getting back to the people don't want to be the apprentice, you know. I almost
what people don't see right now is like, we've both done our time. Like, so I done my time in the trenches, learning from the boys and really just taking everything on board, and so did you. And there was a lot of learnings that we had to go through.
Oh man,
and
like
the new boys who started the shop now, they only see us at the level we're at now. They haven't seen us go through the whole process. And it's hard sometimes, you know, they'll ask at different times, Leigh, what's the answer? What's this? I'm like, look, honestly, it's time. And that's one of the hardest things to hear. Consistency and time. Good practice and time. Like, look, you're in the right environment, you will become a product of your environment. Subconscious, subliminal messaging. You will become a product of your environment. You're in the right place, so don't worry about that. Your eyes are adjusting to what you need to see. You're around the right information all the time. I'm telling you the things, Owen's telling you the things. Now, it's time. They look at us and they think we got here overnight. It's been like 16 years it's taken me to get to this point. Well, this is the thing, right? Like every moment in the story that you've told so far has been important. To get us to where we're at right now. Exactly. And so, you know, that's why now, you know, because clients used to say it to me, what do you teach? And I used to work with a lady that she became a TAFE teacher. She was a hairdresser for like 23 years and then stopped to become a TAFE teacher. And she was like, you should teach. You'd be great at it. And then this was about 10 years into my career, and I always just said no, because I used to think about it and said, I'd like to be able to share my knowledge, but I wanted to feel a level of establishment before I did it. You know, I wanted to get to a point where I was like established enough. So what happened then? So we then went, I used to support you at a lot of your shows. You know, I would come up into area, do my days at the
building my clientele, building my skill set, because like I had the scissor work down. But one of the things that scared the living daylights out of me was trying to keep up with you guys on the fading side of things. I mean, you guys were just hands down. But this is where I really appreciate some of the initial things that Jordan used to say to me at the shop was brilliant for my mindset. He used to say to me, "Don't worry about the fading." It was like I don't even care. He was like, "Right now we're looking for scissor work." I'm like, "Well, I'm your man." I was like, "What do you need to know? I'm your man." You know.
We always wanted to add the different elements.
He said to me, it was like, "Bro, don't even worry. I can teach you the fading," and it was music to my ears. Yeah. Music to my ears. Instead of having that expectation of like, "Oh, well, what can you do then? Why aren't you like that?" It was just like, "Don't worry. I can teach you the fading." Yeah. And I knew in my mind, I knew how to learn. I knew how to practice. Like I said on the last podcast, it's not enough just to know the knowledge or get the knowledge. You have to know how to learn. And I spent my whole career focusing on how to learn, focusing on the little details, the technique, the process, you know, and that's how it got there. So that was music to my ears there. And then the other thing was, I always used to say this thing. I think Danny said it to me as well. Jordan said it and Danny said it. Danny was cutting my hair one time and I was like, "Man, I'm just so lucky to be here. Like, I just feel so lucky to be here." And he went, "Why?" you know, Daddy's like, he was like, "Why'd you feel lucky?" And I was like, "Well, you guys are like amazing." I was like, "This is the best of the, like, this is where everybody would want to come to." And he was like, "Don't be like that." He was like, "You're great at what you do." Yeah. And that's so good, you know, and that's what I try and say to the boys. I'm like, "Look, it's a time thing. You have the knowledge. It's just be patient, put the time in the trenches. You're in the right environment. You're around the right people. You will be fine."
Yeah. And then when the time is right,
you
step into the role. When the time is right, you step into it.
And another thing, we talk about this. That's why I never delete a single Instagram post unless it like goes against some guidelines or something. Never delete it. Enjoy where you are at. Enjoy this process. Enjoy the moment, because else I would never have a story like this to share if I never did it. If I just skipped right to the finish line, we don't have this, you know, and we don't have credibility on what we've built, you know. 100%. So yeah, back in the trenches there. Eventually I transitioned into working more and more at area. Became a permanent resident, so then I was free to do what I wanted to do. Switched up full time at area.
But then you stepped into it, like you went from, you know, being probably less comfortable in the beginning, doing your men's cuts, and from my point of view, in my eyes, and struggling a bit more with the fading stuff, and then you started stepping into it, and you're learning quick, and then boom, you became. I
think that was the thing. It was. You
started making your own way within the brand too, and then you started like, okay, I'm going to go to this competition, and I'm going to go to this competition by myself, even if we weren't going. Yeah. And you went, and you added your name to the board of the trophies. Like,
exactly.
You know, like you did all that stuff.
That was my see. This is the funny thing as well. And a lot of people won't do this. This is where you have to have humility and take your ego out of it. I've got to be honest, at the start, nobody knows where that's going to go. I could have got fired in the first month, you know, you don't know. And I could have turned around in the first month and been like, this is just too much. I was working a lot. And there could be easily times where I threw in the towel, you know. Yeah. And because I wasn't there a lot, and to feel like you're an integral part of the team is hard when you're not there a lot, you know. But just that contribution to put, again, etching my name on the wall and being like, this is my contribution to the team and the growth. That takes a lot of like humility, you know, just like, there you go, you know.
And I remember for us, like one really, because I guess when I say us, like me, Danny and Jordan were the kind of key, the first kind of members of the team. And I remember going to HPIA in 2018. I think it was 18. Was it 18 or 19? And we were all certain that Leigh was going to win. Like, you remember that? Yeah. We were like, nah, Leigh's done the work. Like, you could see that it was another level of effort.
What a year of transformation. Like, that was all I needed. All I needed was to learn.
It was 1 year. It was literally 1 year.
It probably,
and that was it.
Like, all I needed was to learn the fading off you guys. I had all the creativity. I had all the ideas. I just needed that little bit of icing on the cake. And once I got it, and that conviction that I had it, that was it. I went in all guns blazing, and that shit now, if I did some of those haircuts, that they were ahead of their curve.
100%.
Like, that transformation that I did, that guy went from like Jesus hair to this like mod thing.
I just don't understand how you didn't win. Danny won it,
but
he was devastated. He was disappointed.
He was devastated.
He was even disappointed that you didn't win. He was like,
I remember.
He was like, you've been robbed.
He was like, that's He was like, you've been robbed. But that haircut, to do that fast, nobody was doing that at that time. Nobody. I had the taper, I had the scar lines, I had the layering, I had the length, I had the colour.
It was ridiculous.
I had the fringe, and Danny actually afterwards, he went, "Whoa, look at that guy. That guy's sick. That's winning." I'm like, "That's my model." He went, "Get out of here." He's like, "That's your guy," because he went in with like shoulder length hair. He come out with this cool textured like long mod thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's my guy." He was like, "Oh shit," you know. Like,
and you know what is really interesting about that as well? Like that year in particular, I didn't win anything. I think you placed in one.
I placed in the classic. Yeah.
Ridiculous, by the way. Should have fucking placed in all of them. I didn't win anything either. Which is great. Like, it shows our mentality to keep on going, to keep persisting. You take the lessons.
But we took away small salon.
Yeah, we did. We did win small salon. Yeah. And I was just so happy with that.
But that was nice to me. For me, like, that felt like a contribution.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't want to let you guys down either. I'm like, right, well, they've given me an opportunity here, and like
but then you really feel part of the team, right?
Yeah, and that's when I felt like I guess it started to feel part of the team, you know, and to get you guys recognition for you, like Danny, to turn around and just be like, "Oh shit, it's over," you know. Yeah. Or like, because there's a video I've got it on an old phone somewhere, like I'm filming or you're filming me taking a photo, and it's like chicken dinner for Leigh tonight or something like that. You know, there's you saying it in the background, and I love it. But that's a collection on its own right there. I could have made a little collection out of those three guys, you know. Yeah. Classic, futuristic, and then some weird creative.
All of our trims at them comps, bro, they were all like they were all really nice. Yeah. They were really nice.
We've seen some really cool shit.
They were very ahead of their time at that particular point. But yeah, from there, like I guess you just started transitioning into the shop hours, more full time towards us.
And then I was still
doing the competitions, even when we didn't. You were going.
So one year there was it 2018, 2019. I was starting to build some traction. I feel like I had a point to prove. I felt like I had all the tools that I needed to just do some damage, basically. Yeah. I did that again. That might sound that might sound egotistical, but like, look, I really wanted to push it. And I was getting to a point in my career. I'm like, well, it's now or never. You know, you're not relevant forever, and you don't have a skill set forever. At a certain point in time, that just doesn't happen forever.
Yeah, I think that's what keeps us going. To be honest, that particular point.
Yeah,
like not knowing that like it could be up.
It could be all gone tomorrow.
Be over tomorrow. Like
this is what people don't understand. I know that tomorrow this could be gone.
I don't want that to happen. It's like a fear.
And I don't want it to happen. And that is the competitive streak in me and the judgmental thing on myself. We know that we need to keep elevating this and reinventing it every single day to keep it going. Yeah, it's not by luck and it's not by chance. Well, there's a fraction of it in there. Day in, day out, there's that never-ending effort. But I had a point to prove over like 2018, 2019 season. I feel like I had a point to prove.
I was seasons.
Yeah. Well, I almost look at it. It was like a competitive season. You know, maybe that's like from bodybuilding. They call it like seasons. But I look at that and I think, right, I just really want to make a mark here. And I was turning up to all kinds of stuff. And I turned up to the Brisbane Hair and Beauty Expo on my own. I had a couple of people come with me, but it was just like family people. Couple of friends, and then turned up to that on my own. Didn't do anything, but I didn't care. I knew I could do it. I knew I could. That one I didn't win there. It was just poor choice of model. I just didn't really have a great source of models then. Yeah. But did that, didn't win. And then the next big one, I went to the Barber Expo, the Barber Brands Barber Expo, and I went there on my own. And I applied for the Barber of the Year competition, got through as a finalist. So initially there was like an online application. You had to submit photos and why you want to do it, why you think you should be allowed to do it, all that stuff. I got through it. This is where it gets crazy. So this is where I'm grateful for the regional salon as well. So one of my clients, I was talking to her about it, and I was like, I'm going to Brisbane. I was like, God, I've got to find models. Like, and then if I get through to the final, I've got to find another one. And she was like, oh, my cousin's boyfriend is kind of cool. He gets cool haircuts. Like, maybe I could ask him. And she was like, yeah, I just texted him and he said, yeah, be up for it. So I added him on Instagram. We were chatting, never seen this guy's hair. He just sent me like a couple pictures, turned up. And I remember like something that I learned from HYA, it was about the full fit, from head to toe. So I'd got him like the tracksuit, and I'd got the feet, when Fila was coming big, I got him the whole tracksuit, the cool shoes. I took all this stuff with me. I dressed him, did his hair, bang. Won my first heat. Highest points in the heat. I'm like, sick, this is cool. And I looked around, gauge what everybody was doing, and I'm like, nobody's doing this work. Everybody's just doing fades. They're playing it safe. You had 30 minutes to do this competition, and I was banging out all kinds of crazy stuff. And then
two scissors came back out.
Yeah, but I'd only got one model. That was for the heat.
You had to go find someone, didn't you?
I had to go find somebody. Yeah. So I'm pacing around in this place. I'm like, and the other thing is, I didn't know if I got through to the finals. They forgot to tell me. So there was like, because it was so busy, there was one girl who was tallying up all the points, and there was like a group message, and she forgot to send it. And I went up to her and I'm like, well, we've got like 45 minutes to go. Am I in the final? And she's like, oh yeah, did I not tell you? I'm like, no, you didn't. And she was like, really? I was like, no message. And she went, oh, I'm so sorry, you got through. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. So I just went upstairs in this venue, and I saw this guy had a hat on, and he had these little blonde curls hanging out underneath his hat. And I'm like, that's my guy. I'm like, that's going to be cool. I just went straight up to him, excuse me, can you take your hat off? And he was like, what the hell? So he took his hat off. I'm like, perfect. It was all dark underneath. It was all blonde and curly on top, like bleached. A little bit of regrowth. I'm like, this is it. This is the one.
This is the trim.
This is the one. And then I was like, look, I've just got through to the finals. Can I cut your hair? And he was like, yeah, great. I knew nothing about this guy. Never cut his hair before, but against the conviction, trusting your techniques. I knew I had the capability to do it. I knew that I could cut anybody's hair in that place and make it look nice, you know. And then, so we got down there, and I was chatting to him afterwards. Turns out he's a hairdresser, so that was even better. He knew what was involved. That's probably why he was so okay to do it. And then banged out this trim that I've never ever done before. Pulled influences from all over the place. And I was just thinking, right, let's do something that nobody here is going to do. Show off the scissor work, show off the fade work, show off the details, put in a little line, creativity, all this stuff. Ended up winning the 2019 Barber Expo Barber of the Year, first place, which was unbelievable. Took the trophy, had a quick beer, jumped on the plane, went straight back to Melbourne, went home like nothing ever happened.
Literally.
And came back to work, and I was like, yeah, I won.
Literally, because I remember that time too. And Leigh just came back into the salon and was like, yeah, I just been to Brisbane at the weekend and just won Barber of the Year. It's like, cool.
I got smashed on the weekend.
Added to the list, added to the things, the plaque on the wall, I guess. So from there, I guess we went kind of into lockdown, didn't we? Almost. It was
that, then
you couldn't really capitalize on it too much.
No,
it was like,
then it all kind of slowed down from there. So did we do any hair shows after that? I think we might have done one.
Oh no, we did.
We did. Yeah. So we went to
Hair Expo again.
We went to Hair Expo. Yeah, Hair Expo came up after that.
Back to where we first kind of.
It's a really special place, isn't it? It's so sad that it's gone. It holds like, it's a lot of value and a big part of our career. But anyway. That's what makes the story and the legacy, right?
Well, this is where Area Academy was kind of born, and we put up a post about this recently, and it was like the start of the journey, wasn't it?
It's not an overnight success. Basically, that was the gist of the story. So 2017. Again, this is the power of being in the trenches. Don't be afraid to be the guy stood on the sidelines. I was the guy stood on the sidelines watching Owen do his work. But what did I get out of that? I was winning these competitions, putting my work out online. People had a little idea of who I am, but you turn up to these things, keep turning up. Eventually, your time comes, and it's such valuable words of advice. Basically, Owen was doing some live stuff with Andis on the stage, and the manager at the time was like, we're potentially looking for new educators. Do you want to have a crack? And I was like, whoa, they easily could have said no, because that still scared me at that time. Easily could have said no. And I just thought back to all those moments in my life, and I looked around me and I saw the people around me, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. Again, you need to switch that conviction, like, I have the skills to do this. Did a haircut with Owen on the stage, and I think that was a really good thing. Owen kind of made it happen where we went on stage together. That really helped with the comfortability side of things, and
I think from there, we kind of had a pretty good flow to the session. Straight away we had a good kind of connection. Like
people said to me after, they were like,
it's like we've been doing it for.
How did you do that? And I'm like, I don't really know. The blinkers went on, and I'd heard you do it so many times, and I was just kind of in and out of, like, when you had a quiet moment, I would kind of go in. And
I think the year before I actually cut your hair.
Yeah.
On stage as a model.
It was
like
either
you were.
Yeah.
It was the year before.
Yeah, it was the year before. So
and you're around that enough. You're kind of absorbing it and you're listening
that's
to it.
the
Like,
thing. Though. That's what people don't understand. Like,
same thing for me. Like, I've been around it. I absorbed it and I applied it straight away. You know.
But that's what the great thing about, you know, with the academy now, with the network platform, and even in our in-house sessions, offering sort of mentorship programs and shadowing sessions, you know, they are invaluable.
Yeah.
You can't put a price on that stuff. They're probably going to be priced at a high point because our time is valuable right now, but that stuff is invaluable, and I was just lucky to get a lot of that for free out of just putting myself in those situations. So don't ever be afraid to be that person, the guy on the sidelines, because your time will come. Again, it's about a product of your environment. I became a product of that.
But then it's like, when that time does come,
Yep.
how you react to that and how you take the opportunities is
So yeah, I could have easily said no.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where I was like, I'm scared.
We might not even be here today because I had the idea to turn area into an academy from that very first Hair and Beauty Expo. I remember when my mom was here, I was like, I want to do the education thing.
Well, your education kind of career was really going really strong. You know, there was no really need, you know.
No, I could have continued. I could have continued just individually. My own personal brand was kind of doing all right. Like, I did my own show at Hair Expo. Yeah, amazing. Under my own personal brand.
And just seeing all that, it's inspirational to me. You know, I have enough humility to like let go of like, all right, we spoke about this last time, but short amount of time in the career, all that stuff, you know, in the industry, but that doesn't matter. That's inspirational to me. I'm like, this guy can do it. I need to step into this now. You know, I've been putting it off for years and years. People have been saying to me, you should do it, you should do it. I'm like, no. I'm like, well, when am I going to do it? You know?
And it was about establishing a structure, like, where it's like, all right, let's do it. Like, I knew like it's something cliche and cringe, right? You can say it, but it's like, if you want to go, what is it? Like, if you want to go far, you go together. If you want to go quick, you go alone. Type of thing.
Things are always better shared.
Yeah, exactly.
Know,
and I always wanted to share it with the team. That was like my initial kind of vision was to kind of look at Australia and be like, I took inspiration from menswear and what they did, and I was like, okay, let's fucking do it. Like, but I was being held back, and now, look, at a certain point, that holding me back did help. Yeah. But then eventually it just was like, you gotta break the shackles and just do it. You know, take that straight jacket off. Let's go. Amazing. Let's step into it and let's get a team together. And like, I was like, there's no better person to do it with than Leigh.
So where did it go from there? Yeah, once we, you know, because we spent a few months putting the planning in, you know, design, you know, getting the.
It was a thought for a long time.
And then we were talking about it, and then we were like, right, when are we going to do it? Let's set a date. And then 2020 was obviously all the COVID stuff happened, so we were stuck online. We missed our first opportunity. I think mid-year we were meant to have our first classes, and we had pushed them all the way out to like ended up being September, October. But we managed to get in on the craft lookbook. That was a real goal of mine. I loved that show. It's so unique. Dre Hair in I think he lived in LA at the time, still might, but he put on, you know, what I see as one of the better hair shows I've ever seen. It was such a cool concept. It was like half rave, half hair show. It was amazing. And I said to Owen, I was like, we should just try and go there one year and just try and be there. Even if we are there not educating, next year we will be, you know. And then lockdown happened. He announced online that the show wasn't happening. It was going to be an online show. Me and Owen were like, let's just contact him.
Lookbook on
lockdown. And that's what really, like, I thought, this is it. Like, we can do this. If we're getting a recognition overseas with people that don't even know us, like.
But even in the progression from where you were at from there to where you're at now, even like for me to see it, like, in terms of educating and teaching is just like, it's like you've gone, like, you were here already, and then it was just like, again, like.
But you know what? I mean, you'll know, probably know what I'm about to say, but that we had a conversation about it, and this is how I enjoy how open we can be with each other. It's like you said to me that we have a responsibility now in this industry. And it was almost like, you know, when I started at Area, when like Jordan would say to me, you know, you are good at what you do, trust that and go with it, you know. And you said the same thing to me, like we were having a conversation, and you were like, right, well, we've got an obligation and a responsibility now in this industry. And I don't know what came over me. It was like overnight I changed. I just needed to hear.
It was like that step into the role.
I just needed to hear that was you are capable, and this is what you can do now. Go with it. And that was it. I think since that conversation, like, there's been a whole new confidence about the way I do things, and just trusting what I know, and it hasn't failed me yet.
Product of your environment too.
Yeah,
just like being around each other and sharing our mindset with each other. That's why we wanted to start this podcast as well, just to be able to share our stories and our experiences with people. And like, you know, Leigh's story is absolutely
it's a long one,
but it's so inspiring. But
that's what people don't see.
And I feel like that's the thing. We're coming towards like the end of it now, and it's kind of up to this present moment. And I have a question for you at the end, but it's just so much work in the trenches, like building it and building it and building it. And there's a reason why you're here today and why you're doing what you're doing today.
But look at this as well, though. Like, this is a funny thing where, like, social media and the internet doesn't do us favors sometimes, because most people only ever see your career from the moment you started Instagram. I was cutting hair a long time before Instagram came about.
Yeah.
So most people are like, oh, well, that's the trajectory of your career. Oh, no. It was like
there's stuff that's not even on camera.
There's stuff that's not even on the internet that I was doing for many years. You know, and it's like, that's cool. I love having that behind me, and now I think you helped to bring that out in me to trust it and go with it and enjoy it and just own it. That's me. That's my journey. That's my story. And it's like I said at the start, the cool thing about these conversations about your story is there's value, so much value in it. You know, I don't want to just be talking about myself all the time, but there's value in it.
Yeah.
And I think being a beacon for other people, you know, a client said this to me one time. You know, I was probably having a bit of a crisis with my personality and didn't really know, like, I was probably coming to a bit of a point where I was like, oh, I'm finding it hard to deal with people, and, you know, just working out what my energy was about and how I was as a person and who I've been up until a certain point. And they were like, and I was like, do I just change myself or fit a mold? And they were like, don't ever change yourself. No. Don't ever stop being a beacon, because if you don't have that on, how do you expect the other people to be able to see you who do resonate with it? And that was very powerful, and that's kind of where I'm at now. It's like, I'm just going to shine that light, and whoever likes it, they'll come along, and they're my people, you know, or they're our people, you know.
100%.
And that's basically it. And now I've got my whole journey behind me to back that up, and in some ways it feels like it's only just starting. 100%. It's almost like I had a bit of a rebirth in the last year. I'm like, wow, like, that's what the first 15 years did for me.
Yeah, and what about the next?
Because that story that I just told, basically about my whole career, you could almost break it up into like 5-year gaps. First 5 years, next 5 years, then that pivotal moment we met, and then it's now this 5 years, you know. And then, man, what are the next 10 or 15 going to bring?
Well, that's the question, like, I was going to ask.
Like, wow.
I guess this is a good, because look, we kind of explained as to how the network came about last time. This is the question to really wrap it up today, you know.
Yeah.
What do you think the next 15 holds?
World domination.
Presidency of Australia. What do you reckon?
That's a good idea. Do you reckon I could become a minister or something? Like health minister, or
minister for hair.
I could do a good job.
Minister for hair health.
No, look.
But what do you see coming next? What do you want?
Right. I think I like this, because this brings a lot of clarity into behind everything that I do. I want to be. I don't like when people say I just want to be the best version of myself. Yet even the best version of yourself might not be a good one. Do you find, like, you can it depends how bad you are to start with, but like if the best version of that person doesn't always mean it's good. So I'm constantly reassessing who I am and why I am that way. And I'm just trying to develop a moral code inside my head that keeps me being a better person. For me, just to say, oh, I want to be the best version of myself, well, that doesn't mean I'm always helping, you know. It might not be great. So I'm just trying to build up that framework inside of my mind, always, daily, consistently. I just want to be a better person for the world. I don't, be a better person for myself and everybody around me. And that takes like a particular like kind of moral makeup. So that's what I'm always working on. And so just developing that moral code for myself, I think it's really important. But yeah, in terms of like hair, where the journey goes from here, I really want to like help people with all the sort of those pivotal moments that I've had in my career, and all the sort of mistakes. I mean, this hasn't all been good. You know, there's been a lot of mistakes made in there, and that's why I always say at our classes, you know, again, never being afraid to be that person on the sidelines, because people like us can help cut your learning curve massively.
Yeah,
it's like Warren Buffett always says, you know, you can make mistakes, but the mistakes don't always have to be yours. And that's where mentors come in. Pick somebody who's been in the game a long time and made a lot of mistakes, and I'm that person. You know, it's not all been good, and it's not all been, you know, linear. But that's where I can really help, and we could both really help someone's career trajectory and just the way they develop as a human. And yeah, I love, like, I'm really big into like holistic health as well, so I would love to bring that into what we do in hair, and we are already doing it in our academy. Look out on the network, we're going to have a lot of holistic stuff in there, you know, sort of mindset stuff, ways to like amplify brain performance, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. There's going to be a lot of that coming, so I just really want to encapsulate that in myself and bring that to the industry, because I think this industry is amazing, but there are certain things that if we let go undone, it's not going to be amazing anymore. And it really can be. Like, if we change a few things just around, like, help to guide things around mindset and just the way we think about a few things, this industry is unbelievable. Yeah. You know, from an artistic standpoint, from a creativity standpoint, from a connection standpoint, to being a human, to being just allowing yourself to do and be who you want to be, it's unbelievable. There's a couple of things that I really feel like we just need to have a little nudge in a different direction. And then once we do that, man, my job is done. Like, it can just flourish, you know, it could just, but then, you know, that's the legacy, and then the next generation can come along and they can do their bit. Exactly. But I think, like we always say in a class, we have to leave this industry in a better place than we found it. And that's one of the whole reasons why we really felt like we were called to do this education. You know, there's a hole in the industry, and we've got to fill it. If we don't, we are just part of that problem.
Who else is going to do it?
Who else is going to do it? Exactly, because you could sit waiting, but, you know, you got to take the leap eventually.
That kind of comes from the humility within your journey as well. Like, I feel like, you know, there's a certain humility to, I guess, being from the UK or being from Ireland, where you think, oh, well, I'm not the person to do that, because
that's what everybody
conditioned to do it. But, like, sometimes you just are the person to do it. You know?
That's what everybody tells you.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's
sometimes
questioning the blueprint.
Sometimes question the blueprint. Sometimes it takes coming to somewhere like Australia, leaving everybody behind, leave your parents behind. I'm not saying that's a good thing, like, in terms of like connection, because I love my parents to pieces. I wish they were here all the time, but there are certain things that you need to just get away from. You need to build your own framework and retrain yourself to be like, I am the person. I can be the person, you know, because if you stay in those loops, you'll never get out of them. And then, you need to leave like your social circles behind sometimes, just to put yourself in a new environment and just be like, this is who I am now. And it's all that stuff. It's an accumulation, you know, hearing certain things from certain people, just being like, okay, you can do this, and
be the change you want to see.
Oh, I love that saying.
That's a perfect quote to like finish off the conversation. To
close it out there.
It's been very inspiring for me to hear your story again. I've heard a lot of it, but there's definitely some details in there that I didn't know. And
I can't wait to hear yours, like the details.
There's probably some details in mine too that like you won't know. So thank you for sharing it with me and with the listeners of the network. Before we wrap up, it would be nice to just give a little shout out to the partners of the podcast. So Jack Reed Foundation, Tapped by Hatch, and CBD Culture. Thank you for listening today. Stay tuned for another episode very, very shortly. Episode 3 will be my story. So thank you for sharing your story, Leigh. And
thanks for listening, mate.
Yeah. You got anything else you want to say before we?
Just keep an eye on all the social platforms. Keep an eye on the Instagram. Keep an eye on the mailing list and the Facebook page. You're going to get all the leaks and details, that everything that we're up to, exclusive deals, early access to certain things. So keep your eyes peeled, and we'll see you soon.
Ciao.